I'm cultivating immortality with the science of mortals. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 451, Treasureland Blackpool. After encircling the 7-inch snake, the black and white double rings tightened suddenly, breaking the black scales on the 3-headed black snake and trapping it in the flesh. Suddenly, the two snake heads screamed in pain and even couldn't control their bodies. They fell straight down from the air and crashed into a mushroom forest. Bang bang, they slammed their heads on the ground twice, as if they wanted to break free from the black and white double rings, but it was obviously not that easy. The middle snakehead was the first to realize this and immediately stopped this crazy behavior. The snake mouth opened and demon fire overflowed. Its target was not Yunkyo, but the rightmost snakehead on the side. Each head of the 3-headed black snake can perform a powerful magical power. The blood-colored demon flame has a history. If it hits the white ring, it is very likely to help the rightmost snakehead escape. However, Yunkyo had long expected that the 3-headed black snakes would save each other, and the magic formula of his hands suddenly changed. The black and white double rings magnified 1,000 times shone with spiritual light, and each of them shot out a black and white chain, connected to the other, and then suddenly tightened. Suddenly, the two snakeheads collided with each other, and the magical power that the middle snakehead was ready to use was also held back. Fellow Daoist Zuo, my magic power is very much consumed. Please act quickly. Yunkyo was not relaxed at the same time, and beads of sweat gradually appeared on her white forehead. Luo Hong's multicolored giant ring was already quite large, but if it wanted to achieve the power to kill the 3-headed black snake with one blow, it would take a while to prepare. At this time, due to the continuous weight of Kikken, the 3-headed black snake went completely crazy. It swung its body, and the huge snake tail swung forward violently, with a huge explosion in the flashing black shadow. The snake tail hit the place where the black and white double rings were imprisoned, first whipping itself to pieces, and then hitting the black and white double rings, and making the spiritual light tremble. Yunkyo immediately groaned. The magic weapon was connected to her mind, so she knew the brute force contained in the snake's tail. Not good. The yin-yang soul locking ring can't withstand a few attacks like this. Is that person still not well? The sound of pa came one after another. The 3-headed black snake seemed to be frantically self-harming, as if it didn't feel any pain. At the same time, the spiritual light of the black and white double rings became weaker and weaker, and gradually couldn't lock the two snakeheads, causing them to separate a little. Finally, the magic formula in Luo Hong's hand changed. The colorful giant ring in the air began to rotate and shrink rapidly, and fell quickly towards the 3-headed black snake on the ground. Fellow Daoistian, it's okay, take back the magic weapon. Luo Hong calmed down his breath and reminded him with a voice transmission. It's okay. Yunkyo was a little confused. Although the spiritual energy emitted by the colorful giant ring was amazing, it was just the pure 5-element spiritual energy. It didn't seem to have much power. Could it really injure the 3-headed black snake? Hey, why is he retreating? Yunkyo was extremely confused, but decided to trust Luo Hong first. With a thought, she turned the black and white rings into 2 air arrows and flew back. At the same time, she also pulled back. Suddenly freed from the trap, the 3-headed black snake was overjoyed. Immediately, a spiritual light flashed on its wings, and it was about to chase the two. But as soon as it moved, a shocking sound came from above its head, and then the dazzling white lightning completely enveloped it. Like a white sun rising from the ground, the huge white thunderball of hundreds of feet released a terrifying destructive force, and everything around it, whether it was grass, trees, or rocks, was falling apart. The violent shock wave hit like a tidal wave, and Yunkyo was shocked, and hurriedly used the Liangai Bagua plates to resist it. Is this the 5-element divine thunder? It can be so huge. This person is really extraordinary. Yunkyo's heart sank, and she muttered to herself secretly. The reason why she usually acts impulsively and seems weird and jumpy is that she is conceited about her strength, and others can't do anything to her, even if they are dissatisfied. This time she blatantly dragged Luo Hong into the water for this reason, but now she couldn't help but feel a little guilty. In the lightless shield, Luo Hong looked at the spectacular scene in front of her expressionlessly, secretly recording the data with the experience table. Not long after, the white thunderball gradually dissipated, leaving only a hemispherical deep pit. At the bottom of the pit, in addition to soil and rocks, there was only a broken corpse of a fierce beast, and the appearance of a three-headed black snake could be vaguely distinguished. Luo Hong flew over first, stretched out his hand, and a dark blue stream of light flew into his sleeve. Will this not blow up the demon pool as well? Yunkao stared at the three heads of the three-headed black snake that had disappeared with an ugly expression, and couldn't help but click her tongue. She took great pains, and did not hesitate to offend a powerful enemy, to kill the three-headed black snake, but missed the most valuable trophy, and couldn't help feeling depressed. Forget it, the snake's demon pool is just a side benefit anyway. Fellow Daoist Zuo, since we have joined forces to kill this vicious snake, let's divide the materials on it equally. The pair of flesh wings of the three-headed black snake can be used to refine a good flying magic weapon. The snake scales can be used to refine armor, and the blood, flesh and internal organs can all be used as medicine. Kaira has offended me before, so let brother Zuo pick it out. Yunkao smiled and said with a slightly flattering tone, then Zuo will not be polite. Luo Hong didn't say much, and immediately took out the golden moon scimitar, cut off the pair of incomplete flesh wings on the back of the three-headed black snake, and put them into the treasure bag. To be honest, Yunkao took the initiative to offend him, and then showed many treasures that made him covetous. Luo Hong did have the idea of turning against her immediately after killing the three-headed black snake, but after thinking carefully, he gave up this idea. This woman has many treasures on her body, and she did not reveal all her secrets in the previous battle. Luo Hong cannot guarantee that he will be able to kill her. Moreover, this woman's identity is also very tricky. Tai sect has been able to occupy the position of the leader of the righteous path of Dajan for countless years, and must have a very deep foundation. At present, Luo sect must be hostile to him. If he becomes an enemy of Tai sect again, it would be quite unwise. Seeing Luo Hong make her choice, Yunkao quietly breathed a sigh of relief, and then removed the hardest scales on the three-headed black snake, split the snake's belly, and took out its snake gall. After dividing the spoils, Luo Hong looked at the black pool where the three-headed black snake appeared, and said lightly, such a powerful beast must be guarding an extremely precious ancient spiritual medicine. I wonder if brother Yin can introduce it to me. I just went down to the black pool and startled the three-headed black snake. I don't know what ancient spiritual medicine is under the black pool. Why don't you go with me, brother Zuo, to explore it? Perhaps knowing that he couldn't hide it from Luo Hong, Yunkao did not hide the fact that there was an ancient spiritual medicine under the black pool, but took the initiative to propose to explore together. Collecting ancient spiritual medicine was Luo Hong's next plan, and he would not refuse. So, the two flew to the sky above the black pool together. Luo Hong explored with his spiritual sense, and found that the water in this black pool was quite strange. It actually had the effect of absorbing spiritual consciousness. With his spiritual consciousness, he could only go hundreds of feet deep, and was far from the bottom. There were some eyeless demon fish living in the black pool. They were quite large, but their auras were not strong. I think these demon fish were the blood food of the three-headed black snakes on weekdays. This pool is difficult to enter with spiritual consciousness, and it is dark and lightless. I wonder why Miss Yin went into the water to explore. Although this black pool is strange, every minute and every second in the black area is precious. If there is no special reason, no one will waste time in this pool. This is a treasure land recorded by my Tai sect predecessors. Brother Zuo will know if you go down and explore it. After saying that, Yunkao fell into the pool with a plop, without giving Luo Hong a chance to ask more questions. After frowning, Luo Hong hurried to catch up. If he was too slow, he might be thrown off by the other party in this pool. Chapter 452, Looted. Although the black pool was deep, there was no danger along the way. The fish monsters that occasionally approached were easily killed by the golden moon scimitar that Luo Hong sacrificed. Soon, a light appeared in front of Luo Hong's eyes. It was a layer of faint blue light film, which was obviously some kind of array restriction. In the divine sense, Yunkyo passed through the blue light film without using any means. It seemed that the function of this blue light film was only to block the water in the pool. Out of caution, Luo Hong first sent out a few remaining blood puppet flying ants to explore the way, and only stepped forward after confirming that there was no danger. After passing through the blue light film, Luo Hong came to an underwater space with extremely rich spiritual energy. In the center of this place, there is a small pool of more than 20 feet in radius. The water in the pool is extremely clear and you can see the bottom at a glance. However, there are no living creatures in this clear pool, and the spiritual energy is extremely weak, which seems very special here. Looking around Kington, Luo Hong was shocked. She saw more than 30 spiritual herbs growing naturally around Kington. Looking at their appearance, Luo Hong could only recognize a few of them, which were the ancient spiritual herbs special to the Black Domain. As expected of Tai sect, they secretly occupy such a treasure land. While others were searching and fighting with fierce beasts for a mature ancient spiritual herb in the Black Domain, the disciples of Tai sect were able to obtain 5 or 6 mature ancient spiritual herbs from this place at once. Of course, no one could beat them. Brother Zuo, there are 5 mature ancient spiritual herbs here, among which this 10,000-year-old forget-me-not flower is of great benefit to my practice. As long as Brother Zuo is willing to give it to me, I will take another one left by Brother Zuo. Yunkyo stood beside a light yellow spiritual flower with a happy face, and said with a jade finger gently tapping the pistil surrounded by spiritual light. You are willing to let me have 3. It seems that this forget-me-not flower is really important to this girl. Could it be that she is practicing a technique that requires her to give up all emotions and desires? But judging from her behavior, it doesn't seem like that at all. After a quick thought, Luo Hong carefully looked at the ancient spiritual medicines here and slowly said, there are 5 mature ancient spiritual medicines here. Zuo can take none of them. Yunkyo was shocked at first, and then immediately became alert when she heard this. As the saying goes, if something is abnormal, it must be a demon. If you don't want the ancient spiritual medicines, what else do you want? These 5 ancient spiritual medicines, including the forget-me-not flower, can all belong to fellow Daoistian, but Zuo will transplant all the remaining seedlings. With Han Lao Ema here, the seedlings are equivalent to mature spiritual medicines. Luo Han will definitely make a lot of money from this deal. Yunkyo didn't expect Luo Han to be so cruel. She originally wanted to give him some benefits. After all, it was just 3 ancient spiritual medicines. After she succeeded, she could just search in the Black Domain and make up for it. But the other party actually wanted to wipe out the whole family and take away all the immature ancient spiritual medicines here. Brother Zuo, the environment in which ancient spiritual medicines grow is harsh, and the success rate of transplantation is extremely low. Moreover, it takes tens of thousands of years for these seedlings to mature. Even if Brother Zuo succeeds in transplanting them, he can't use them on himself. Mission, don't worry about this. Zuo will make his own arrangements. Luo Hong didn't explain too much, and he didn't need Yunkyo's consent. After all, this treasure land was only the first to come to Tai sect, not the exclusive property of Tai sect. What he wanted to do didn't need Tai sect's approval. Seeing Luo Hong start to cast a spell to transplant the seedlings, Yunkyo hesitated for a while, but finally didn't say anything to stop him. As she said, even if these seedlings can grow up, they can't be used on her. What she said just now was just her subconscious consideration for the interests of the sect. This man really cares about his tribe. He would rather give up mature ancient spiritual medicines to accumulate heritage for the Mulan tribe. Such a loyal and righteous person is suitable for making friends. I just don't know how many plants he can keep alive in the end. Yunkyo thought to herself, shaking her head slightly. After discovering this treasure land, Tai sect did try to transplant the spiritual medicine seedlings here, but because the success rate was too low and the growth rate of the transplanted plants was far slower than here, they gave up the plan. The key to transplanting spiritual medicines is to subtly control the 5 element of spiritual energy, to imitate the original growth environment of the spiritual medicines. This is not difficult for Luo Hong. who has the assistance of a physical examination form and has practiced high-level spiritual arts. After a few hours, all the spiritual medicine seedlings around Kington were sealed in a jade box by Luo Hong. Yunkyo watched with her own eyes as various exotic flowers and plants disappeared one by one, turning into the Bessine now. She couldn't help but smile bitterly and said, after Brother Zuo's destruction, I'm afraid this place won't be able to recover for thousands of years. Why are you just looking at Zuo and not picking spiritual herbs? Luo Hong didn't care about Yunkyo's complaints. He would probably go to the spirit world in thousands of years, so why would he care whether this place could recover? Brother Zuo, if you have anything else to do, don't worry about me, just go. The picking of this forget-me-not flower is a bit tedious, but it will take some time. After Yunkyo said that, she sat cross-legged in front of the forget-me-not flower, constantly pinching herbal formulas with her hands, and occasionally shooting a small beam of magic light at the forget-me-not flower. Then, Luo Hong saw the forget-me-not flower release a gentle aura, and the petals began to gradually close, as if they were about to shrink into a bud. Luo Hong didn't doubt him. The tedious way of picking herbs was not uncommon, especially in the case of ancient spiritual herbs. However, he still had some doubts in his mind, so before leaving, Luo Hong walked slowly to the edge of the clear pond, stared at the water and pondered. It is not a job for the fierce beasts to guard the ancient spiritual medicine. Once the ancient spiritual medicine matures, they will definitely swallow it up. However, there are no signs of the ancient spiritual medicine here being eaten by the three-headed black snake. Luo Hong felt strange when he first entered this place. After transplanting the seedlings, he carefully observed the 5 mature ancient spiritual medicines. Although he didn't recognize any of them, he could roughly guess their uses from the spiritual properties they exuded. The fierce beast's body is strong. Although the poison in the ancient spiritual medicine is fierce, it will not be a big deal, as long as it swallows the ancient spiritual medicine with the same properties. The three-headed black snake has 3 powerful magical powers of thunder, fire, and ice at the same time, which means that it can swallow ancient spiritual medicines of these 3 properties. Among the 5 mature ancient spiritual medicines here, 2 are mainly fire type, and there is no reason why they can be kept until now. Unless the three-headed black snake's purpose of cultivating here is not to obtain the ancient elixir. Luo Hong narrowed his eyes slightly and felt that this small clear pond was very suspicious, so he moved his mind and offered a jade bottle, wanting to collect some water from the pond for research. Unexpectedly, as soon as the jade bottle flew over the clear pond, the surface became mottled, as if it had experienced countless years. This is. Luo Hong's pupils shrank, and he immediately took a step back. This clear pond actually contained the power of time and space like the Samsara Dark River. Brother Zuo, the water veins of this pond are connected to the Samsara Dark River, so it's better not to touch it too much. Yunkyo reminded him at the right time. Luo Hong did not respond. His eyes flashed as he thought for a moment. Suddenly, he probed his mind into the storage bag on his chest and said in a voice transmission, Fairy Silver, do you know the secret of the Dark River of Samsara? Where does the power of time in it come from? Since it was not caused by the sky-breaking spear, how would this fairy know? However, this pool does have some tricks. You can take a look with your spiritual eyes that can only bridge the cracks in space. Fairy Silver first choked Luo Hong in annoyance, then said with interest, after probing the clear pool. Chapter 453, Possolio Information. Is there really a trick? Without saying anything, Luo Hong made a spell with one hand, and the vertical eye between his eyebrows suddenly opened, revealing a bright yellow leopard eye. Immediately, something appeared in Luo Hong's field of vision. He saw that in the originally empty and crystal clear pool of water, some green runes appeared. These runes were connected in series to form a formation that Luo Hong felt familiar with. After staring blankly for a long time, he walked a few steps along the edge of the pool and then suddenly stepped hard. With a dong sound, the whole pool shook violently, and the water on the surface of the pool immediately rippled. This action was like stepping on Yunkyo's cat's tail, which instantly made him explode with fur, and he immediately shouted, Brother Zuo, what are you doing? If you destroy this precious land, how can you let me explain to the sect? Yunkyo said on the surface that he couldn't explain, but in fact he was using the power of Taisek to suppress Luo Hong. Haha, Miss Yin, your family is really good at creating the first strange formation in ancient times, the Posoliuian formation. It really opened my eyes. As he spoke, many mysterious green runes lit up around the Kington Lake, and on the surface of the lake, entangled with the power of time in the lake, and danced. This formation was arranged very mysteriously, with the help of the cover of the power of time. Even he was unaware of it, before he opened his eyes. You actually know this formation? Yunkyo said in shock. This Posoliuian formation can be called the first strange formation in ancient times, so it must be very mysterious. And the man in front of him not only called out the name of this formation, but also aroused the reaction of the formation. He must know this formation very well. No wonder Miss Yin wants to stay here alone. I guess this big formation is the real purpose of your trip? Luo Hong retracted his right foot, and the lit runes dimmed again. He turned around, and said with a smile, I remember Miss Yin said that she would share the opportunities under the black pool with me. I believe that with Miss Yin's status, she will not go back on her word. Damn it, this guy is so powerful, and he is also proficient in the art of formations. This time I'm really at a loss. Yunkyo cursed in her heart, her face full of depression. After mumbling twice, she said reluctantly, since I promised Brother Zuo, I will not stop him from borrowing this formation. However, this is the Black Domain after all. Our sect is quite restricted in setting up formations here. This Posoliuian formation is incomplete. If you want to enter the formation and get the opportunity, you must first pass through the pool. Haha, the power of time is indeed very troublesome, but Zuo has his own way to resist it. Miss Yin does not need to pretend to cast a spell. Quickly pick the ancient elixir that belongs to you. Every moment now is extremely precious. Luo Hong was able to recognize the Posoliuian formation and find its small formation eye because of the detailed records of this formation in the ancient formation jade slips, and naturally knew the mysterious effect of this formation. The power of time was not difficult for him. Yunkyo frowned, stood up slightly unhappy, pointed her sword finger at the forget-me-not flower, and it quickly shrank into a bud. Then, she pinched it with her hand, that was condensed with magic power, and picked the flower bud. Then, the remaining roots of the forget-me-not flower quickly withered, and in the blink of an eye, they fell into mud. Brother Zuo is right. Now it is indeed true, that every inch of time is worth an inch of gold. There are 4 ancient spiritual medicines left. I will pick them after I come out of the formation. After putting away the forget-me-not flower, Yunkyo ignored the other 4 ancient spiritual medicines and walked quickly to Luo Hong's side. After standing still, she took out a golden spiritual talisman and stuck it on her shoulder. A layer of light blue spiritual light immediately covered her body. Obviously, this spiritual talisman was her means of blocking the power of time. After performing her own methods, Yunkyo turned her head and looked at Luo Hong, wanting to see what kind of methods he would use. But Luo Hong only took out a pair of black and white jade from the storage bag and stopped moving, which made her curious. Despite this, Yunkyo didn't want to waste any more time. After looking back, she immediately jumped into the pool. The green spiritual light on her body slowly rippled in the water, echoing with some green runes, blocking the power of time and yin. Seeing this, Luo Hong nodded slightly, then wrapped her body with the power of heaven and earth, and then amplified it with the yin-yang ruiju. With a slight effort of her feet, she jumped to the center of the clear pool, and fell into the pool with a plop. The power of time and yin in the pool is far less dense than that of the dark river of reincarnation, and the power of heaven and earth is more than enough to resist its erosion. Not long after diving, the scenery in front of Luo Hong suddenly changed. The bottom of the pool was not just an ordinary bottom of the water as she had seen before, but a flat stone platform engraved with many runes. While scanning, Luo Hong suddenly felt relaxed. It turned out that there was a waterless space several feet above the stone platform. It was only because the water in the pool was too clear and the power of time blocked the exploration of the spiritual consciousness that Luo Hong did not discover it in advance. After landing on the stone platform, Luo Hong looked up and saw that the spiritual energy flowing above the pool had become abnormally slow. After a brief calculation using the physical examination form, he came to an astonishing conclusion. The speed of time in the stone platform space is hundreds of times faster than that in the outside world. In other words, Luo Hong has to stay here for more than a year before one day in the outside world passes. This formation can have such a magical effect, mostly because it borrowed the power of time in the pool. Otherwise, it would never be possible to achieve this level by manpower alone. Moreover, the spiritual energy here is also very abundant. It is indeed a treasure land for retreat and cultivation. Brother Zuo, I think you already know the secrets of this place. Next, you and I will practice in seclusion. I hope Brother Zuo will not disturb us. After picking the forget worry flower, you need to refine the elixir and swallow it immediately. Yunkao is eager to refine the elixir and practice, so she simply stopped worrying about Luo Hong taking advantage of her Tai sect and just took the opportunity to make friends. After all, the forget worry elixir is very helpful to her practice. After refining it, she will not only be able to make great progress in her practice, but also it will be much easier for her to break through the bottleneck of the late nascent soul stage in the future. It just so happens that Zuo has also gained something in the black domain. Then, according to what Miss Yin said, you and I will do our own things and not interfere with each other. The 5-colored stone is already in hand. Luo Hong only needs to refine the innate 5 element in it to break through the second level of the great 5 element Tang Shengju and transform the physical body into the innate 5 element body. By then, he may be able to make a breakthrough in the bottleneck of the middle nascent soul stage. There are still 11 or 12 days before the black domain teleports everyone out, which means that Luo Hong can only stay here for about 18 years at most, which is more than enough time to do these two things. Although it is not very reassuring to have outsiders around during the retreat, Luo Hong is not alone. With Yuan Yao as his guardian, he is not afraid of Yunkao's tricks. After the agreement, Luo Hong and Yunkao came to the two ends of the stone platform respectively and set up formations to isolate each other from detection. Jaoa, I have to trouble you again this time. Miss Yin has a strange personality and cannot be judged by common sense. You need to be by her side to protect her during this retreat. Since Luo Hong and Yuan Yao had a night of love in the holy city of Milan, their relationship has made great progress. Although they did not perform the ceremony, they are already like a couple. This name naturally became intimate. Don't worry, Mr. Luo. I will be on my own to be on the lookout for this girl. Yuan Yao said with some discomfort. She didn't want to call Luo Hong husband so soon. After all, she had to consider Sister Yu's feelings. But she couldn't bear it when Luo Hong forced her. Chapter 454, The Middle Stage of Yuanying. After seeing Yuan Yao hiding in the formation, Luo Hong felt relieved. With a thought, he took out the 5-colored stone from the treasure bag. Then he cast a few spells and saw it fly above Luo Hong's head. Then, Luo Hong used the great 5 element Tang Shengju to draw the innate 5 element energy in the 5-colored stone into his body. As strands of 5-colored light fell from the 5-colored stone, Luo Hong gradually entered a state of meditation and refining. The 5-colored halo on his body flowed like a peerless treasure. At the same time, Yunkao, who was far away on the other side, was still refining the elixir. The pure 5 element energy emanating from Luo Hong made her a little distracted. In fact, she and Luo Hong were both very curious about the other's cultivation method. However, after a battle, both of them used magic weapons as the main method, and their skills and supernatural powers were not revealed much, so they had no way of knowing. Now, Yunkao sensed this extremely pure 5 element energy, and her heart was shocked. This person can enter the black domain, and his years of cultivation must be similar to mine. However, he is actually practicing the most time-consuming and difficult 5 attribute technique. I'm afraid he has received a complete ancient inheritance. It seems that this person must know the mystery of the transformation of the spirit, and he is also ambitious to become a spirit. The appearance of each spirit cultivator can stir up the situation in the human world. If a strong spirit cultivator is born among the Milan people, I'm afraid that within 100 years, a superpower that will unify the grassland and Cheyenne will appear. This is bound to have a great impact on Ajin, and Yunkao can't help but feel fortunate for her friendship. If Luo Hong is really a Milan person, then he will indeed expand the sphere of influence of the Milan people after advancing to the spirit, as Yunkao guessed at this time. There are no spirit cultivators in the entire grassland and Cheyenne, and Luo Hong is very likely to unify them. But unfortunately Luo Hong is not a Milan person, and has no interest in expanding the territory. He just wants to stay in the cave to do research. I didn't expect that there would be someone among my peers who could compete with me. I suddenly felt that the world of cultivating immortals has become interesting. Yunkai's frown suddenly relaxed, and she laughed softly. She was confident that her talent would never be inferior to others, especially after she refined the forget worry pill. Afterwards, Yunkai gathered her mind and put all her energy into refining the pill. Now that there is an opponent who is worthy of my attention, I should get serious. In this way, Luo Hong and Yunkai have been doing their own things in the Possolian formation for more than a month. On this day, a slight sound suddenly came from the pill furnace in front of Yunkai, which was a sign of pill formation. Yunkai immediately cheered up and urged her magic power to increase the firepower to do her best. After a few hours, Yunkai's face flashed with joy, and she condensed a big magic hand and slapped the furnace. With a clang, the furnace cover shot up into the sky, and then a spiritual pill emitting pure white divine light flew out, circling in the air for a circle, before pretending to escape. The elixir is spiritual, worthy of me. Yunkai immediately flew up, and in a few leaps, she grabbed the newly made forget worry pill in her hand. The spiritual light on the forget worry pill was dim, and the runes were flowing, which was obviously of extremely high quality. After the great success of alchemy, Yunkai couldn't help but look at Luo Hong. She felt that the fluctuation of the 5 element of spiritual energy had not changed at all, and she couldn't help but lose some interest. After putting the forget worry pill into the jade bottle, Yunkai first put the alchemy furnace and other utensils into the storage bag, and then took out a golden talisman with a faint human figure on it, clamped it between her sword fingers, and chanted a spell. Then, Yunkai swung her sword finger and threw the golden talisman into the formation restriction. After seeing the talisman disappear, Yunkai sat down cross-legged, used his energy to recover the mana lost in alchemy, and prepared to take the forget worry pill. In this way, the days in the outside world passed day by day, while the two people in the formation had been in seclusion for 6 or 7 years. After a long period of refining, Luo Hong finally integrated the innate 5 element of the 5-colored stone into his body. As the 5-colored stone was crushed into ash, Luo Hong's body also ushered in a transformation. Endless spiritual energy from heaven and earth poured into Luo Hong's body frantically, causing his body surface to emit a brilliant spiritual light. This is because Luo Hong had refined the body of the innate 5 element at the moment he broke through the second level of the great 5 element Tang Shengju, and his body was undergoing a mysterious change from acquired to innate. At this time, his body was like a black hole with huge suction, attracting the spiritual energy of heaven and earth in a very large range. The amazing phenomenon of spiritual energy backflowing, as expected, caused Luo Hong's cultivation bottleneck to loosen. Luo Hong immediately took the opportunity to practice his skills, and his nascent soul seemed to sink into a quagmire, and he felt that there was a shackle on all sides. But under the impact of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, he felt that his strength was getting stronger and stronger, while the shackles were getting weaker and weaker. After an unknown period of time, Luo Hong finally reached the critical point, and the shackles around the nascent soul were broken like gold foil, and his cultivation jumped to the middle stage of the nascent soul. The impact caused by the breakthrough made the phenomenon of spiritual energy backflow more violent, and the spiritual energy in the entire Possolian formation was swarming towards Luo Hong. Yunkai, who was also in the formation, was inevitably affected, and fell into a situation where there was no spiritual energy to refine. Normally, the lack of spiritual energy from heaven and earth to refine would only make her unable to practice for a period of time. But at this time, Yunkai was refining the forget worry pill. Although the forget worry pill would greatly benefit Yunkai's cultivation of the skills, its medicinal power was strong and long-lasting, and it was very difficult to refine. After so many years, she has only refined most of the medicinal power. Before, she used her mana to refine the medicinal power, while practicing the exercises to restore her mana, and the two were basically balanced. But now, without the spiritual energy to replenish, her mana began to slowly decline. After more than a month, Luo Hong still showed no signs of stopping, and Yun Kao was a little panicked. No, if this continues, the medicinal power of the forget worry pill will be out of control. Damn, what the hell is that person doing? A mere breakthrough to the nascent soul realm would cause such a strange phenomenon. Could he still have the blood of the true spirit? Yun Kao gritted her silver teeth and glanced at Luo Hong, feeling very depressed. With a thought, she took out a jade bottle from the storage bag, and then she sucked it with her small mouth, and a drop of milky white spiritual liquid flew out of the jade bottle and sank into her mouth. As soon as this drop of spiritual liquid entered his stomach, his mana increased rapidly. HMPH. I wasted a drop of my 10,000-year-old spirit milk. After this, I will definitely settle accounts with that person. Then, after another month, Yun Kao took another drop of the 10,000-year-old spirit milk with a sullen face, cursing in his heart. Another waste of a drop. I wonder how long you can keep pouring. Soon, a year passed. Suddenly one day, the spiritual energy in the formation finally calmed down, as if Luo Hong's bottomless pit was finally filled. In the Danshan, the Yuanying, which had grown a circle larger, stopped the cross-legged posture that had been maintained for 8 years, and stretched his muscles and bones freely. Haha, this is the feeling of the middle stage of the Yuanying. Not bad, really not bad. The fulfillment and satisfaction after breaking through the realm made Luo Hong overjoyed. After crossing this bottleneck, he would not have to use the purple sky divine thunder to deal with the cultivators in the late stage of the Yuanying. The threat of the person behind the scenes, who sent the Yuanying death soldiers, who had been weighing on his heart, slipped away in an instant. After the nascent soul played in the Danshan for a while, Luo Hong tried to calm down and look inward at his own body. Although it was gratifying to break through the realm of cultivation during this retreat, the biggest gain was the refinement of the innate 5-element body. It is worth mentioning that, when Luo Hong refined the innate 5-element and condensed the body with the great 5-element Tang Shengju, there was no obstruction. It can be seen how solid the foundation he laid before was, and it felt like a natural process, and when the realm was reached, the supernatural power was born naturally. Chapter 455 5-Element Escape. The first feeling that the innate 5-element body gave Luo Hong was that his perception of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth became 100 times clearer. The 5-element spiritual energy rippling around his body was like his servants, coming when he waved and going when he drank. He was like a cultivator who could freely control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. However, the amount of control was far less than that of a cultivator who had reached the state of transformation, let alone the level of attracting the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. But Luo Hong was still very happy about it, because the biggest difficulty in breaking through the state of transformation was the control of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The time when Han Leomo failed to break through the state of transformation was because he did not have enough control over the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. It was not until he later refined a variant of the 5-element magic power, the Yuanzi Shengang, that this problem was solved. Now Luo Hong's cultivation has not yet reached the level of transformation, but his ability to control the spiritual energy of heaven and earth has reached the level of transformation. In addition to his powerful Yuanshan, it can be said that he is now a quasi-transformation cultivator. He only needs to continue to practice in seclusion, and he will naturally break through the realm after hundreds of years. Haha, my path is complete. After becoming a spirit, one can jump out of the human world, a realm with thin spiritual energy, and enter the real world of cultivating immortals. Thinking of this, Luo Hong couldn't help but smile happily. Congratulations on your great progress in cultivation. Yuan Yao walked out of the Forbidden Light film and congratulated with a smile on her face. Jao, you have worked hard these years. Is there any movement from Yun Kao? Luo Hong looked at Yuan Yao with gentle eyes and asked softly. My husband sucked away all the spiritual energy when he broke through the realm. Miss Yun is probably complaining now. Yuan Yao smiled with her hands covering her mouth, and her eyes looked charming and charming. Haha, speaking of it, the smooth cultivation this time is also thanks to the abundant spiritual energy here. It is indeed a bit wrong to delay the other party's cultivation. Luo Hong smiled brightly, touched her nose, and seemed a little ashamed. After that, he sent out his spiritual sense to see what was going on with Yun Kao. If the other party was not in meditation, he would take the initiative to confess his crime to avoid unnecessary hatred. As a result, as soon as his spiritual sense was sent out, he detected an extremely crazy spiritual energy fluctuation. This made Luo Hong's face change, and he flashed to the outside of the other party's restriction. In a layer of silver restriction light film, Yunkaio's figure was vaguely sitting on the ground, her delicate body trembling constantly, as if suppressing something in her body. Then, a breath that Luo Hong was very familiar with suddenly came out from under the restriction light film. The demon invaded the body. No, this woman is possessed. Luo Hong was very familiar with the breath of the extraterritorial demon, and his methods were even more familiar. If this woman faced the extraterritorial demon outside her body, even the green domain demon would find it difficult to break her crystal shield magic weapon. But if the extraterritorial demon invaded her body, even if it was the black domain demon, this woman would probably end up with a serious injury to her soul at the least. If she died, it would undoubtedly be even more troublesome. Not to mention solving the extraterritorial demon that occupied her body. Tai sect might come to seek revenge on him in the future. With a thought, Luo Hong realized that he must not let the other party get into trouble. At least he must not die here, otherwise he would not be able to explain himself, even if he had a mouth all over his body. So, Luo Hong immediately waved his hand and offered the 5-element flag to surround the formation set by Yunkaio, trying to break the formation by force. But just as Luo Hong was about to use the formation to break the formation, he saw a golden light suddenly appear, and then a golden body warrior jumped in front of him with a Dang Talisman soldier. Luo Hong shouted in surprise about the origin of the golden body warrior. This thing is a powerful method derived from a high-level ancient cultivator. It is not difficult for a golden body warrior to entangle the cultivator in the late nascent soul stage. With Yunkaio's arrangement, it is no wonder that she is relieved to retreat with Luo Hong in the same place. But Yunkaio's cleverness backfired. She was fighting against the alien demon that had invaded her body, and she could not control the golden body warrior. The other party could only act according to the order she had given in advance. Obviously, the order Yunkaio had given in advance was to prevent others from breaking the formation. In a flash of thought, the 10-foot-tall golden body warrior swung his fist and smashed Luo Hong's head. Wrapped in blue spiritual light, Luo Hong punched out with his right fist. The next moment, the two fists of very different sizes collided with each other, and a fierce wave of air burst out. Luo Hong frowned slightly. The strength of the golden body warrior was still beyond his expectations. He had used 60% to 70% of his strength, but was still forced to retreat half a step. Of course, the golden body warrior was even more unbearable. He retreated 3 steps in a row, and a fist mark was sunken on his fist as big as a human head. However, after the golden light flashed, the fist mark was smoothed out, and he said in a muffled voice, "I obey your orders, your majesty, to defeat the enemy with force." Then he punched again. Although this golden body warrior was extremely powerful, he was still no match for Luo Hong, who had practiced the great 5-element sage art to the 2nd level. However, Fu Bing was famous for his toughness and durability. It would take Luo Hong a while to beat him to death. By then, Yunkaio would probably be dead. But this golden body warrior was quite strong. Luo Hong could not resist his fists and break the formation. Thinking of this, Luo Hong could not help but feel irritated. Seeing that the golden body warrior rushed up again, he angrily cursed, "Get out of here," and was about to punch him away. At this moment, a circle of golden nets burst out from Luo Hong's body. With a slight swing, the golden body warrior who rushed up was ejected more than 10 feet away. Luo Hong was slightly stunned, then reacted and murmured, "Is this gold escape technique?" The most common escape techniques are various 5-element escape techniques, such as earth escape technique, wood escape technique, etc. The threshold for practicing these escape techniques is not high. Luo Hong practiced earth escape technique when he was in the foundation building period. Generally, cultivators above the Jinden stage will practice 1 or 2 5-element escape techniques to facilitate daily activities, which is nothing special. However, the 5-element escape techniques are notoriously easy to learn, but difficult to master. For example, most cultivators can only use the earth escape technique to travel underground, and only a very small number of cultivators can practice it to the extent of shrinking the earth into an inch. Only when the earth escape technique is practiced to the extent of shrinking the earth into an inch, can it be called a great escape technique. If all 5 great escape techniques are combined in one person, then the long lost magical power of the 5-element great escape will be reproduced. Just now, Luo Hong just turned his mind and did not pinch the formula or chant the spell, and the highest level of the gold escape technique, golden net to avoid disaster, condensed out. The process is like a monster using its innate magical power. It only takes one thought to display the magical power. Obviously, this is a change brought about by the innate 5-element body. After realizing this, Luo Hong took a step forward, based on his feeling. Then, the scene in front of him was a flower, which had passed through the formation set up by Yunkao, and came to her side, shrinking the earth into an inch. It was indeed mysterious. When the golden-bodied warrior saw Luo Hong breaking into the formation, he immediately shouted angrily, and his whole body was shining with golden light, as if he had performed some explosive secret technique, and attacked him fiercely. Chapter 456, Backlash of the Technique. However, the highest level of the golden escape technique, the golden net for avoiding disasters, has the magical power to bounce off all things of the golden element. Attacks rich in the golden element's spiritual energy, such as the golden body warrior and Han Laomo's green bamboo cloud sword, cannot get close to Luo Hong. The more the golden body warrior explodes, the richer the golden element's spiritual energy it stimulates, and the less likely it is to break through the golden net for avoiding disasters. As expected, the golden body warrior was heavily bounced away again. Cultivating the 5-element great escape is said to be able to reach the azure underworld in the 9 netherworlds, and there is no place in the human world that cannot be reached. Of course, the magic is not limited to this. However, Luo Hong had no time to continue digging at this time. Yunkao's condition was not right, and he had to rescue her as soon as possible. He stretched out his sword finger and pointed it at Yunkao's eyebrows. He closed his eyes and his soul escaped from his body. In the sea of consciousness, Yunkao's soul was fighting with a group of black shadows under the protection of the divine crystal shield. Although the divine crystal shield was strong, Yunkao was suffering from the backlash of her skills at this time, and could not fight the enemy with all her heart and soul, so she was already at a disadvantage. If there was no external help, Yunkao's soul would be devoured by the outer demon. If someone else were to deal with the current situation, it might be extremely difficult. After all, the outer demon and Yunkao's soul were tightly entangled. If they acted rashly, it might seriously damage Yunkao's soul and let the outer demon succeed. However, there were already countless black demons who died at the hands of Luo Hong. The fat one in front of him was not raised by him yet, so naturally it could not cause any trouble. The blue little man transformed by Luo Hong's soul stretched out his sword finger with ease and shouted softly, "Die." As soon as the soul-destroying spell came out, the black demon died immediately and disintegrated into a ball of grey mist, filling a large area of the sea of consciousness. Yunkao's soul was a blessing in disguise this time. When she refines the grey mist in the sea of consciousness, her soul will be significantly improved. After solving the problem of the backlash of the outer demon, Luo Hong did not care about the remaining backlash of the skills. He thought that Yunkao would not lack elixirs to deal with such accidents. However, just when Luo Hong was about to retire, he found that he could not withdraw from Yunkao's sea of consciousness. At some point, a layer of white spiritual light covered the sea of consciousness. When the outer demon died, the originally suppressed white spiritual light suddenly became brighter. Before Luo Hong could figure out what was going on, his consciousness became blurred. When he woke up again, he found himself in a lobby full of wedding characters. His head was dizzy, and he could not remember his past. He had to be like a puppet, and at the urging of others, he married the bride who looked familiar in front of him. After getting married, he and his wife opened a medicine shop and lived a stable life for decades. Until one day, he received a guest who looked exactly like himself when he was young, and the dusty memories emerged like mushrooms after rain. "I'm Luo Hong, the Grand Elder of Cheyenne and Huangfeng Valley, not the owner of Changchun Hall and the Imperial City of Dajin. After recovering his memory, Luo Hong immediately realized that he was implicated by the backlash of Yunkaio's skills and fell into the illusion with him. If it weren't for the Bingxin personality hidden in his soul, he would have died of old age and would not have been able to see the truth. However, it was not him who was hit by the backlash of the skills, so although he woke up, he still couldn't get rid of the illusion. We must awaken Yunkaio's memory. Luo Hong's eyes turned cold, leaving the wounded who were wailing in the medicine shop, and came to the back hall. Yunkaio, with wrinkles on his face, was drying various medicinal materials. Seeing Luo Hong's wrong face, he hurriedly asked, "Old man, what happened in front?" Just talking can't help him wake up, and Luo Hong can't sense his consciousness at this time, so he can't use the means of a cultivator. As a last resort, Luo Hong can only use the most brutal way to wake him up. "Miss Yin, I'm sorry." As soon as the voice fell, Luo Hong stretched out his hand to pinch the neck of the elderly Yunkaio, twisted it gently, and broke it. Until he died, the eyes of the elderly Yunkaio were still full of disbelief. And with Yunkaio's death, the medicine shop began to fall apart, and the entire illusion began to collapse rapidly. Just when Luo Hong thought that all this was over, the fragments of the environment were reorganized, and his memory became blurred again. Outside the sea of consciousness, after the golden body warrior persevered in charging up for the 5th time, but was bounced away, Luo Hong suddenly opened his eyes, retracted his sword fingers, as if he was electrocuted, and exhaled heavily. It is unknown what kind of heaven-defying skills Yunkaio practiced. He spent 7749 lives in the illusion before he was able to break free. And because there are only 2 people who really exist in the illusion, so in each life, the 2 have to entangle for decades with different love and hatred, which is comparable to 49 dramas. At the same time that Luo Hong's soul escaped back to her body, Yunkaio also opened her eyes, but her condition was not so good. She was so weak that she couldn't even sit cross-legged. When she woke up, she bent her waist and supported herself on the ground with her hands. Then she took out several pills from her storage bag with great difficulty and swallowed them. Only then did her face regain color. "Miss Yin, since you are fine, I won't bother you anymore." It's a bit unwise for Brother Luo to use a fake name at this time. Yunkaio rolled her eyes at Luo Hong. The memories of every life were clearly stored in her soul. At this moment, she naturally knew Luo Hong's real name. It's just for convenience. "Miss Yin, take good care of yourself. I'll take my leave." Before leaving, Luo Hong considered that the other party had suffered this disaster and was inseparable from him, so he left a bottle of healing pills given to him by Han Laomo as an apology. Looking at Luo Hong leaving, Yunkaio's face was full of mixed emotions, and it was hard to tell whether she was happy or sad. Since Luo Hong could wake up with the help of Bingxin's personality in every life ended with Luo Hong killing Yunkaio in the illusion. Moreover, because Luo Hong didn't know what harm would happen if he stayed in the illusion for a long time, he took action immediately every time, so that the ending of each life was very absurd. For example, in the 10th life, Luo Hong was a general who fought on the battlefield, and Yunkaio was a princess of the imperial dynasty who loved him. Originally, when Luo Hong returned to the court after winning, the 2 would be married according to the imperial decree. But at that time, Luo Hong suddenly found that the enemy general was himself, and his memory was immediately restored. Afterwards, he led the armies of the 2 countries back to the imperial city, went straight into the harem, and stabbed Princess Yunkaio to death with one shot. Humph. This person is too ignorant of sympathy for women. Recalling everything in the illusion, Yunkaio couldn't help but say indignantly, "But in the 49 lives, in more than 30 lives, the 2 were married." Although it was a false illusion, the feeling of harmony between the souls was extremely real. This made Yunkaio very upset. This is all due to the effect of the forget worry pill, not my real thoughts. Just treat it as a dream, don't get hung up on it. Yunkaio tried her best to calm down and warned herself. The supreme heartless art she practiced was the first magical skill of Tai sect. This skill emphasizes the severance of emotions and desires, and the heart is in harmony with the way of heaven. It is most taboo to have love between men and women. This backlash of the skill is both a tribulation and an opportunity. As the saying goes, you can only know what is heartless after you have feelings. If she can use this experience of reincarnation in the illusion to suddenly realize the way of heartlessness and see the nature and heart, then the practice of the skill will be smooth sailing. If she cannot break through the maze, the practice will be extremely difficult in the future, and the practice will stop at the middle stage of the nascent soul. Chapter 457, Confrontation between Good and Evil. Compared to Yunkiro, Luo Hong only spent some of his energy this time, and just thought of it as another tribulation of the inner demon. I don't know if it's because of the other party's skills. As a mortal, after reincarnating 49 times in the illusion with different identities, Luo Hong has some inexplicable understanding of the way of heaven. However, these insights are mysterious, and Luo Hong is not good at traditional ways of cultivating immortals, so he didn't get any benefits immediately. In this regard, Luo Hong didn't care. This opportunity was just icing on the cake for him. Gains or losses can be accepted. At present, Luo Hong has just broken through the middle stage of the nascent soul. He has just continued to practice and improve his magic power. Fortunately, he has a firm foothold at the current spiritual level, that is, to consolidate his cultivation. Therefore, after a simple breath adjustment, Luo Hong once again practiced the skills, and began to enter meditation and retreat. In a blink of an eye, 8 years have passed. After 8 years of hard practice, Luo Hong has completely consolidated his realm, and truly become a cultivator in the middle stage of the nascent soul. Today, he counted with his fingers, and figured out that in about 2 days, everyone would be teleported out. Whether the boiled spiritual liquid of the enlightenment tree can ripen the fruit, I have to verify it myself. If I can ripen the Shiangxin fruit, my trip to the Black Domain will be a success. After Luo Hong made a secret decision, he flew into the air and collected the forbidden arrays around him. Brother Luo, are you ready to leave? Luo Hong's actions were obviously seen by Yunkiro, who immediately spoke. This time, I have borrowed your sex array to break through the realm, and I have already accomplished my mission. There is another ancient spiritual medicine in the Black Domain that I care about, but I have to take this last chance to look for it again. As the saying goes, people who eat people's food are soft-hearted, and people who take people's money are short-handed. After receiving the benefits of Tai sect, Luo Hong couldn't help but speak more politely. With Brother Luo's magical powers, the ancient elixir you are looking for must be rare. With only 2 days left, I'm afraid it will be difficult to get it. Yunkiro sat cross-legged in the forbidden light shield, took off a jade token from his waist, threw it out and said, in this Black Domain, there are 3 other disciples of my Tai sect. Brother Luo, they may be able to help you find the medicine. Luo Hong took the jade token and raised it to his eyes. He saw the word Kyo engraved on it. The spiritual energy was not very strong. It should be just an identity certificate, so he accepted it without saying much. After a simple thank you, Luo Hong used the power of heaven and earth to protect his body and fled upwards. After Luo Hong left, a long sigh came from the Posolian formation, and then the spiritual energy suddenly rolled up, and it once again presented the vision of a Yuanying cultivator breaking through the realm. Of course, Luo Hong, who had already escaped from Kington, knew nothing about all this. HMPH, husband, what did you do to Miss Yun in the forbidden area? Why did she give you the jade pendant? Yuan Yao asked with a tone full of resentment, as soon as she escaped from the clear pool. Ahem, it was only a few breaths, what can I do? Miss Yun just wanted to thank me for saving her life, so she helped me and thanked me. Joa, don't think too much. Luo Hong said with a guilty conscience. He could only be regarded as mentally cheating at most, and he was drugged. He could barely have a clear conscience. HMPH, I believe you for now. Although Yuan Yao still felt that something was wrong, she couldn't think of what was wrong. As he spoke, Luo Hong had escaped from the black pool, took out the map given by Lan Ke, and after determining the location, he quickly fled in the direction of the Shiangxin divine tree. Along the way, Luo Hong used the 5-element great escape to his heart's content. Sometimes he could shrink the earth into an inch and take a step of hundreds of feet. Sometimes he could become a thin line of mist and turn into white mist to travel several miles in a breath. Sometimes he could hide his traces in the trees and teleport continuously between the grass and trees, moving like a ghost. In between, various magical powers seemed to be instinctive, moving as he wished, and Luo Hong felt very happy. The 5-element Great Escape lived up to its name. Luo Hong was almost walking in a straight line all the way. He went through the forests and cut through the mountains. Even if there were fierce beasts blocking his way, they could not touch the corner of his clothes. A sense of heroism, that the world was so big, that he could go anywhere could not help but arise in Luo Hong's heart. After trying it for a while, Luo Hong found that shrinking the earth into an inch was the most suitable for traveling. When he used it, not only was his figure ghostly and appeared and disappeared, but his speed was also extremely fast, even better than that of the great cultivators in the late Yuanying period. Just when Luo Hong was trying his best to travel, Qiyu Wuji and other magic cultivators had already gathered near the Xiangxin divine tree. Lin Yunping and the other 5 were also among them, and they were floating beside Sun Zhenliang and the others from the Jiuyao sect. Brother Qiyu, in less than 2 days, the Black Domain will teleport us out, but the people from the righteous path have not made a move yet. What are they waiting for? Sun Zhenliang asked with a frown. The reason they gathered here was because they discovered the abnormal behavior of the righteous cultivators and wanted to gather together for warmth. Of course we are waiting for someone. Yan Kaio and Zuo Bufan haven't shown up yet. Meng Dangzhi, who had become a lonely man, stood on the black cloud of the 4 people from the Xianmo sect and said gloomily, the only thing nearby that is worthy of the righteous path to put up such a battle is the Xiangxin divine tree. No matter what the righteous path wants to do, we just need to wait for the opportunity. Qiyu Wuji crossed his arms and said expressionlessly, I'm afraid that the righteous path deliberately confronts us and has already made a move on the Xiangxin divine tree in secret. Sun Zhenliang stared at a mountaintop dozens of miles away and said worriedly, don't worry, I have secretly placed the heavenly demon flag near the heavenly heart divine tree. If anyone sneaks in, it will definitely alarm the heavenly demon. Qiyu Wuji said confidently, this heavenly demon flag is a rare treasure of the heavenly demon sect. The flag refines the outer demons that were attracted by the demon cultivators in the heavenly demon sect over the generations. Any intelligent being that approaches cannot escape the perception of the outer demons. The demon cultivators nodded slightly upon hearing this and continued to wait quietly. Fellow Daoist Lin, will that person really come? Why do I feel that something is wrong? The Milan people have always been very close to the Yin Luo sect. How could they suddenly turn to the Dajin righteous path? Jiang Kun, who was standing behind Lin Yunping, transmitted his voice with a solemn expression. Lin Yunping knew this too. The 2 Wu clan can now almost dominate the grassland, and there is also the shadow of the Dajin righteous path behind them. Logically, they shouldn't be in collusion with the people of the demonic path, but since Zuo Bufan has the boundary crystal in his hand, they can only stand on the opposite side of him. The Yin Luo sect's leader and his wife have both perished in the battle between Milan and Xianan. Perhaps because of this consideration, Milan chose to cooperate with the Dajin Orthodox sect. We don't have to think too much about these forces' alliances. Our only goal is to take advantage of the situation, to force Zuo Bufan to hand over the boundary crystal. Try not to cause any trouble. After reaching a cooperation with the demonic path, Lin Yunping once joined forces with the demonic path cultivators to return to the shattered sky deep pit, but they didn't find even half a boundary crystal. Now their only hope to complete the clan's mission is to wait for Luo Hong here. While the demonic path people were gathering to discuss, the orthodox path cultivators also had many doubts. Chapter 458 Infiltration. On a mountain with a faint green light, when Ken, Du Shanhao and others stood on various strange and huge fluorescent mushrooms, and their expressions were not so good. There are less than 2 days left. Luo Panayang, could your inference be wrong? The target of the demonic path is not the Xiangxin fruit at all. Du Shanhao was the most impatient, and he couldn't help but have doubts in his heart after waiting for Luo Hong for so long. Almost all the people of the demonic path are on the opposite mountain. If my inference is wrong, why would they waste time searching for ancient spiritual medicines and confront us here? Luo Panayang firmly believed in his inference. It is extremely difficult for a spirit beast with the blood of the true spirit to break through the realm. How could it be such a coincidence that they just encountered an opportunity in the black domain? There must be a plan of the demonic path. I'm afraid that the demonic path has other requests, and they are just confronting us here to delay us. Someone among the cultivators said worriedly. In addition to the Shiaxin fruit, there are other extremely precious ancient elixirs in the black domain, but only the Shiaxin fruit cannot be lost for the righteous sects like us. The demonic path has other requests, which is not a bad thing. Wen Ke said with a warm smile on his face. Before, he had contacted Yun Kao once with the sect's secret technique, but did not receive a response. Although he was also proud of his magical powers, he was still inferior to the demon child Qiyu Wuji. Without Yun Kao to check and balance each other, the righteous and the evil sides would clash, and they might not be able to get the good of the righteous. Fellow Daoist Wen is right, only the Shiaxin fruit cannot be lost. There is a Tai micro dust formation set up by fellow Daoist Wen around the Shiaxin divine tree. If anyone tries to break in, it will provoke an attack from the formation. In less than 2 days, we will stay here and must not let the evil path succeed. Luo Panayang said with a piercing look. Hearing this, Du Shanhao and others calmed down a lot of anxiety in their hearts, and they all concentrated their energy and decided to continue waiting. At this moment, Luo Hong was suspended in the air 300 miles away with a solemn expression. He had been waiting here for an hour or two, but the large number of auras sensed by his spiritual sense showed no intention of moving. What's going on? Why don't the cultivators of the righteous and evil sides go to search for ancient spiritual medicines, but are confronting here? Could it be that they also have the spiritual fluid of the enlightenment tree? Luo Hong had no idea that he had caused this mess, and he was very depressed at the moment. Regardless of why the righteous and evil sides were confronting here, if he succeeded in ripening the Shiaxin fruit, it would inevitably attract cultivators from both sides to fight for it. Thinking of being besieged by 70 or 80 cultivators in the middle stage of the nascent soul, even Luo Hong's scalp tingled. However, the Shiaxin fruit was related to the comprehension of the silver pedigree scripture, and the skills and magical powers recorded in the Golden Palace Jade Book were his important reliance for controlling his own destiny in the spirit world. He would never give up no matter what. After all, the spirit world is not a paradise for human cultivators. On the contrary, the human race can only be regarded as a weak race in the spirit world, and is always facing the threat of foreign races. Although this may seem unbelievable to others, Luo Hong is indeed considering it. After ascending to the spirit world, if an ascended cultivator like me wants to wash away the aura of the other world, I have to go to Shianyuan City to serve as a Kingming guard, which will inevitably face the threat of alien races. And the alien races that dare to sneak into the human territory are naturally supernatural powers, and there are even beings at the level of refining emptiness. Without enough killer maces, they can only be a life or death. This half of the Golden Palace Jade Book in my hand records the way of talismans. As long as I can comprehend 1 or 2, I can have 1 or 2 more killer maces. Before I ascend, I must do this. The opportunity now cannot be missed. After analyzing it in a soliloquy, Luo Hong's eyes condensed, and then his mind moved, and his body turned into a ball of white mist. This is the magical power of the water element in the 5-element escape, Misty Line. This escape technique is the most hidden one among all the escape techniques in the 5-element escape. The white mist transformed by Luo Hong's body spread out in all directions under his control, becoming thinner and thinner, until it could not be seen by the naked eye. Luo Hong silently performed the nameless key gathering technique again, and then fled in the direction of the Shiaxin divine tree. Not long after flying, Luo Hong entered the range of the consciousness of a normal mid-stage Yuanying cultivator, and immediately sensed dozens of divine thoughts sweeping back and forth in this area. But none of them stopped on Luo Hong's body, and all swept past, obviously not noticing Luo Hong's existence. Just when Luo Hong thought he could deceive everyone, a strong divine thought suddenly swept past and stopped abruptly. On the demonic path mountain, Qiyu Wuji's cold and calm face suddenly changed, his brows slightly locked, revealing a suspicious look. "Brother, have you found anything?" The long-faced demon cultivator next to Qiyu Wuji immediately noticed something strange, and asked in a deep voice. Qiyu Wuji did not respond, but raised his hand and shot out a black magic light, which pierced the empty space in the distance like a long sword. The black magic light disappeared into the horizon without any obstacles, and no strange phenomena appeared. Is it my illusion? Qiyu Wuji frowned even more deeply, and his mind swept back and forth in the empty space several times, but there was no special feeling. Nothing. After searching again without results, Qiyu Wuji did not mean to explain to others. After spitting out 2 words coldly, he returned to his expressionless and stiff face. This person's mind is so powerful that it can be comparable to my Liu Yan Yuan Shen. Luo Hong, who maintained the escape technique, was secretly surprised. His body turned into water mist, so he could naturally change his shape at will, and it was easy for the black magic light to pass through. But when facing Qiyu Wuji's spiritual sense exploration, he could only use the nameless key condensation technique with all his strength to avoid revealing his traces. Because of Qiyu Wuji's existence, Luo Hong could only slow down his escape technique, and it took a lot of time to reach the vicinity of Xiangxin Divine Tree. However, when he arrived here, Luo Hong sensed a hidden breath in the sky and underground. He was very familiar with the breath in the sky, which was the breath of the outer demon. The breath hidden underground was flowing in an orderly manner, repeating over and over again, and was obviously some kind of formation. Good guy, this is simply a net of heaven and earth. Luo Hong secretly complained and decided to deal with the threat of the breath in the sky first. Taking advantage of the gap, when the powerful divine thought moved away, Luo Hong released his divine thought, and instantly found the demon flag hidden in the air. With just one glance, he saw the function of this flag. Borrowing the outer demon's perception of the spiritual intelligence of living beings, to make a means of investigation. I have some ideas, but it's not difficult for me. Luo Hong's mouth curled slightly, and then he silently urged the spell, causing an inexplicable fluctuation in his soul. The outer demon does not have common senses such as vision and hearing, and only has divine sense perception. Due to its talent, the outer demon's divine sense perception is particularly sharp, but as long as you understand the principle, it is still very easy to deceive these stupid creatures with no spiritual intelligence. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 459, Ripening. Luo Hong, who understood the principle of soul fluctuation, easily adjusted his soul fluctuation to the same frequency as the outer demon through spells. In order to avoid trouble, Luo Hong pretended to be the soul fluctuation of the green demon. As a result, as soon as the green demon's breath came out, the outer demon in the demon flag became quiet like a quail, shrinking in the corner and trembling. After solving the trouble in the sky, Luo Hong turned his attention to the formation underground. In comparison, this unknown formation is much more difficult to deal with. Fortunately, there is no one around to preside over it, so it is not impossible to sneak in without being noticed. Just as Luo Hong was about to deduce and find the flaws of this formation, he suddenly found that the jade plate with the word Kyo hanging on his waist was emitting a faint spiritual light. A closer look revealed that this jade plate was actually inductively connected to the large formation hidden underground. Could it be that the formation here was set up by the disciples of Tai sect? Luo Hong's heart moved, and he immediately took off the jade plate and passed in a stream of magic power. Then a beam of white light shot out from the jade token and sank directly into the ground. Soon, the underground formation reacted, and the breath flowed and revealed the life gate. Luo Hong saw this, and knew that this formation was set up by the cultivators of Tai sect, and it was estimated that they did not own it, but were given to them by the sect, so Yan Kyo's jade token could be used as a forbidden token. Since there was such a good thing, Luo Hong naturally did not need to waste any more time, and immediately walked towards the life gate. Not long after, he passed through the formation, and came to a lush and green spiritual tree that looked like green jade. Is this the Xiangxin Divine Tree? It is indeed extraordinary. As he spoke, Luo Hong had already revealed his figure, and the key condensation technique was no longer fully operated. because he found that the cultivators of both the righteous and the evil seemed to trust the arrangements they left at the Shyangxin divine tree too much, so that their spiritual consciousness never scanned here, and it was simply a state of darkness under the lamp. As Luo Hong approached the Shyangxin divine tree step by step, he was also looking at it. This lush green sacred tree was only a little over 10 feet tall, with few branches and even fewer leaves. On one of the branches, a turquoise gold Shyangxin flower was blooming very conspicuously. The Shyangxin flower is still blooming, which means that the Shyangxin sacred tree has only completed the first 30,000 years of fruiting. When it starts to bear fruit, that is, at the end of the second 30,000 years, the flower will wither. Fairy Yin had not known when to probe her consciousness from the storage bag, and suddenly spoke at this time. Luo Hong had never thought that a storage bag could stop the other party, so he was not surprised to see her so free. It happened that he had taken the Xianlin Holy Cauldron from Lin Yinping before, and after he refined it, he threw the silver short stick that Fairy Yin had hidden in it. So, I have to ripen it for at least 30,000 years before I can get a Shyangxin fruit. After Luo Hong was silent for a moment, he turned his palm and took out the Jade Dragon Gourd. Then, with a surge of magic power in his palm, a stream of light green water gushed out from the gourd mouth and poured directly towards the roots of the Shyangxin divine tree. You want to use spirit wine to ripen the Shyangxin fruit? What are you kidding? Fairy Silver immediately smelled the strong aroma of wine in the light green water and couldn't help but said in great surprise. However, before she finished her words, the blooming Shyangxin flower actually dropped a petal. Then, within a few breaths, all the petals left the center of the flower, and the Shyangxin flower withered. It's actually starting to bear fruit. What kind of spirit wine is that? No, how could it be because of spirit wine? Your wine is mixed with the spirit fluid of the enlightenment tree. Fairy Silver reacted very quickly and guessed the truth at once. In my early years, Luo Hong was given a cup of enlightenment tea by a senior master by chance. I have drunk a lot of it over the years, and I don't know if the remaining tea is enough to fully ripen the Shyangxin fruit. Although it seems that the tea has amazing effects now, Luo Hong didn't have high expectations until the last moment. After all, it takes at least 30,000 years to ripen, and Han Laomo took several years to ripen it with a small green bottle. So it's enlightenment tea. I was wondering why the effect is so amazing. Haha, Taoist friend is really blessed and has such luck. This fairy advises Taoist friend to think about how to get out of this situation. After picking the Shyangxin fruit, after the silver fairy sighed in surprise, she immediately said in a gloating tone, "Oh, according to what the fairy said, Luo Hong will definitely get what he wants this time." Luo Hong didn't care about the little malice of the silver fairy. After all, he used very tough means to deal with her. It would be strange if she was friendly. The fact that he behaved like this at this moment just proved that the other party was a spirit without much scheming. Although there are many leaves on the enlightenment tree, only those that fall automatically can be used to make tea. And the water used for brewing is the spiritual liquid produced by the enlightenment tree. Daoist Luo, if you drink half a cup, even if the heavenly heart divine tree has not yet bloomed, you will ripen the heavenly heart fruit. Fairy Silver said in amazement. Luo Hong's eyes lit up slightly, and she had vaguely mastered the trick of communicating with Fairy Silver. While the two were talking, a golden green fruit gradually grew from small to large. In just half an hour, it grew to the size of a baby's fist. When it grew to this size, the heavenly heart fruit suddenly stopped growing, and many silver runes that looked a bit like silver tadpoles appeared at its roots, rushing madly along the jade-like trunk towards the heavenly heart fruit. As the strange phenomenon occurred, the heavenly heart fruit began to emit a light fragrance. Luo Hong almost entered a state of meditation when he smelled it, but fortunately, his soul was strong, and he was not mesmerized by the fragrance. HMPH, I guess this is a defense mechanism of the Shyangxin divine tree. When the Shyangxin fruit matures, it emits this kind of fragrance that can help people enter a state of meditation. If the souls of nearby creatures are not strong, they will enter a state of meditation and miss the opportunity to pick the Shyangxin fruit. Although this will also be beneficial to the cultivators present, it is not as effective as taking the Shyangxin fruit. After Luo Hong muttered to himself with some enlightenment, he chanted a mantra to stimulate his spirit so as not to enter a state of meditation in the increasingly strong fruit fragrance. Not long after, the fruit fragrance gradually drifted to the vicinity of the mountain, where the righteous and evil sides were located. Although the fragrance that drifted here was extremely faint, the five senses of the Yuan cultivators were so sharp that many cultivators immediately sniffed their noses. Strange, where does the fragrance come from? Du Shanhao sniffed it carefully twice and suddenly felt that his originally anxious mood was suddenly smoothed out, and he actually had an urge to sit cross-legged and practice. Oh no, it's the incense. The demons are taking action. His shout made all the righteous cultivators hold their breath and be alert. This incense doesn't seem to be very powerful. What does the demon want to do? Luo Panayang frowned and said in distress. At this time, the smile on Wen Ke's face suddenly disappeared, and he turned his head and looked at the Shiangxin divine tree. Chapter 460, The Birth of the Shiangxin Fruit. While turning his head to look, Wen Ke also activated the Tai microdist array with the array plate. Then, he was extremely surprised to find that Yin Kaio had sneaked into the array under everyone's noses. Since senior sister Yin is interested in the Shiangxin fruit, why didn't she tell us about it? Doesn't she know that when the Shiangxin fruit is ripe, it will emit a strange fragrance? Wen Ke suddenly felt a headache. He knew that the cultivators would soon react and realize that the source of the strange fragrance was the Shiangxin divine tree. He must do something immediately. Not good. The fragrance is getting stronger. Everyone keep your mind. Someone among the cultivators exclaimed. Wen Ke's eyes immediately turned when he heard this, and he flew up and shouted, "This is the Demon Dao's plan of boiling frogs in warm water. We must not sit and wait for death. The Demon Dao thieves are so vicious, and they use all kinds of shameful things. This Marquis will definitely make them pay." Du Shanhao had the worst temper. He immediately led his fellow disciples to fly into the air, and they used magic weapons to attack the mountain where the Demon Dao was located. Wen Ke also followed at the right time. When the cultivators saw that Du Shanhao and others were leading the charge, and the Tai sect cultivators followed closely behind, they naturally became eager to fight, and they all used magic weapons and flew up to follow. Not long ago, on the mountain where the Demon Dao gathered, Qiu Wuji and others also smelled the strange fragrance of the Shiangxin fruit. However, since no one had ever encountered the Shiangxin fruit when it was about to mature, the demon cultivators did not immediately guess the source of the strange fragrance. Brother Qiu, could this be a method of the righteous path? The long-faced demon cultivator was startled when he found that this strange fragrance could pass through his protective magic shield, as if nothing was there. He couldn't help but guess. Qiu Wuji's eyes flickered without responding, and then he remembered his illusion just now, frowned immediately, and turned to look at the Shiangxin divine tree. Tai macro dust formation? His consciousness was blocked by the formation activated by Wen Ke, which further confirmed his guess. He then communicated with the heavenly demon flag that he had secretly arranged, and he was surprised to find that the lawless extraterritorial demons in the flag were now curled up, as if they had encountered a natural enemy. What a good method. Qiu Wuji gritted his teeth and said with an ugly face. At this moment, an astonishing spiritual energy fluctuation came from the opposite mountain peak, and the manner of dozens of righteous cultivators condensed into one, pressing towards them with overwhelming force. Everyone, this strange fragrance is a sign that the Shiangxin fruit is ripe. We must not let the righteous path get this peerless elixir, otherwise there will be another god in the righteous path within hundreds of years. Please join Qiu in eliminating the Tao and supporting the demons. After saying this, Qiu Wuji led a group of demon cultivators from the Shi and Mo sect to fly up and meet the enemy. As soon as these words came out, they immediately aroused the fear and greed in the hearts of the demon cultivators. Without too much encouragement, they followed them and flew into the air. A war between the righteous and the demons is inevitable. Fellow Daoist Lin, since you have taken refuge among us, you are already the target of those righteous cultivators. I hope you don't make a mistake. When Sun Zhenang flew into the air, he did not forget to warn Lin Yinping. The demon path was slightly inferior in number, so Lin Yinping and the other 5 would not be allowed to do nothing. Lin Yinping knew that, if he refused to fight at this time, the demon cultivators beside him would definitely work together to kill them, so he led Jiang Kun and others to fly without saying a word. However, when the 5 people's eyes met, she also signaled everyone not to fight to the death, obviously thinking of working without putting in any effort. At this moment, Luo Hong was extremely confused. He watched the righteous and evil sides suddenly seem to have a deep hatred for each other, and they all set up their escape lights and collided fiercely. For a moment, the spiritual light and earth-shaking noises of various magic weapons enveloped the world, and the spiritual waves overflowed, turning the world upside down. Why is this happening? Why did they fight each other? Fairy Yin was puzzled. She was very much looking forward to seeing the scene of Luo Hong's embarrassed escape, and at this moment she couldn't help feeling depressed. Haha, interesting. It seems that I really owe Tai sector favor this time, although it was caused by misunderstanding. Luo Hong looked at the activated formations around him, and thinking that it was the righteous side that took action first, he couldn't help but guess some of the reasons. Seeing that no one would come to disturb him in a short time, Luo Hong couldn't help but retract his palm that was reaching for the treasure bag. As time went by, the spiritual light on the surface of the Xiangxin fruit began to flow rapidly, and finally reached the critical point, stimulating a circle of blue-gold spiritual waves. There is no doubt that this spiritual wave carries a little magical effect of the Xiangxin fruit, which can calm people's minds and urge them to enlightenment. But Luo Hong had no intention of accepting this great gift. As soon as the spiritual wave appeared, he used the power of heaven and earth to protect his body, and distorted the spiritual wave. Then, he immediately went to the tree, and stretched out his hand, to grab the Xiangxin fruit that fell from the branch. The fruit that was produced with great difficulty was taken away, and the branches of the Xiangxin divine tree shook slightly, as if expressing its anger. Oh. This divine tree has a great affinity with the immortals, and it has already produced a trace of spiritual intelligence. Although most of this time it is due to my accelerated ripening, it has also been nurtured for more than 30,000 years. Luo has always been a fair trader. I will return you an opportunity for your fruit. If you have spiritual intelligence, you can be called a living being, especially for plants and trees, which is even more rare. The Xiangxin divine tree has a special background. If it can transform into a human form one day, it will surely soar into the sky, out of his own principles, and to calm down possible troubles in the future. Luo Hong took out 3 soul-nourishing beads, and shot them at the Xiangxin divine tree with a flick of his finger. As soon as the 3 soul-nourishing beads touched the jade trunk of the Xiangxin divine tree, they stirred up waves like water waves, and sank directly into the trunk. Suddenly, the branches of the Xiangxin divine tree stopped swaying, and a spiritual light slightly appeared, conveying a joyful emotion. The soul-nourishing beads are undoubtedly the best tonic for the newly born spiritual wisdom of the Xiangxin divine tree. If these 3 beads are digested, it can at least grow to the spiritual wisdom level of a 7 or 8-year-old child of the human race. Just as Luo Hong received the fruit, and gave the beads, the blue-gold spiritual wave had already impacted the battle group of good and evil dozens of miles away. Because of the distance, the power of the blue-gold spiritual wave has been weakened a lot due to the spread, but it still looks amazing. Seeing this, the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides broke away from their current opponents, and used their own means of self-defense. However, this mysterious spiritual wave seemed to be unstoppable, penetrating the self-defense means of all the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides and directly invading their minds. Suddenly, the anger of the crowd caused by the fierce battle quickly melted away like spring snow. Everyone was calm and peaceful, and they could not help but have some enlightenment about some of the difficulties in their own cultivation. Some even broke through the barriers that had been bothering them, making their own cultivation much more advanced. At this moment, the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides could not help but say 3 words in their hearts: heavenly heart fruit. Only the mature spiritual wave has such a magical effect. If you can swallow a whole one, it will be easy to advance to the late stage of the nascent soul. Even breaking through to the god transformation is probably not a luxury. Chapter 461 Siege. Brother Wen, what's going on in the formation? The righteous cultivators were so sure that no one had sneaked in because they believed in the magical power of the Tai microdist array. But now the sudden phenomenon was obviously coming from the Shyangxin divine tree, and everyone couldn't help but question it. The formation has indeed not responded, and I don't know how the person sneaked in. Wen Ke didn't dare to admit that he deliberately covered up, otherwise he would surely arouse public anger. However, he was not afraid that the truth would be exposed. At present, the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides were some distance away from the Shyangxin divine tree, and Yun Kaio had the worldly talisman in her hand. When everyone rushed over, she must have run away without a trace. Senior Sister Yin is really something. Since she has a plan to seize the Shyangxin fruit, why didn't she tell me? Didn't she know my heart and thought I would compete with her for it? Fortunately, I reacted quickly, otherwise I might have made a big mistake. Although Wen Ke had some complaints in his heart, he was more happy. Only a few people in the Tai sect knew that he was in love with Yun Kaio. Don't even think about it. Qiu Wuji's soul was so strong that the spiritual waves generated by the Shyangxin fruit could only affect him for a moment. Because of the information from Lin Yinping and others, he knew that Luo Hong had magical powers such as space teleportation, so he had already made targeted arrangements. At this moment, he realized that the other party had probably obtained the Shyangxin fruit and immediately activated a small flag on his waist. The next moment, the Cheyenne Mo flag, which was originally hidden in the air, suddenly glowed grey and demonic energy rose. The many extraterritorial demons trapped in it made a mournful sound that only the divine consciousness could receive, and the invisible spell waves surged out, instantly causing ripples in the surrounding space. At this time, the cultivators in it, let alone space teleportation, would be torn to pieces by the space ripples if they did not immediately use the magical power of self-defense. Seeing this, Wen Ke's face suddenly became ugly, and he could not help but think about countermeasures. However, he soon did not have to worry. A figure escaped from the Tai microdist formation, his body wrapped in 5-colored spiritual light, and rushed directly to the source of the spatial ripples, reaching out to grab the heavenly demon flag. Stop! As the figure shouted a command, the heavenly demon flag suddenly quieted down, and the 5-colored spiritual light on the other party's body also dissipated. Wen Ke looked closely and saw a male cultivator wearing a black iron mask and wearing the clothes of the Milan people. He glanced and noticed that the other party had a familiar jade token hanging on his waist. After a slight pause, he couldn't help but angrily said, "Who are you?" In fact, he wanted to ask Luo Hong where Yun Kaio's jade token came from, but once he said this, everyone knew the trick he had played before, so he could only force himself to hold it back. However, Luo Hong didn't have the time to chat with Wen Ke at this moment. After using the immobilization spell to temporarily break the magical power of the heavenly demon flag, he immediately cooperated with Yuan Yao to sacrifice the burning soul net to seal the heavenly demon flag. Then, he took out the 4-elephant relocation talisman and wanted to teleport away. However, the people he faced were all geniuses from the top sects of the Great Jin dynasty. After sensing the spatial fluctuations emitted by the 4-elephant relocation talisman, they immediately used restraint methods. Du Shanhao slapped the spirit beast bag on his waist, and a stone elephant spirit beast rolled out. As soon as it appeared, it made a rumbling roar, disturbing the space of this world. At the same time, someone from the demonic path also took action. Sun Zhenang of the Nine Nether sect, with a flick of his sleeves, sacrificed an ancient silver bell. Under the urging of magic power, the bell emitted a buzzing sound that resounded through the world, shaking the space. What's more terrifying is that the two of them were just the fastest to react, and there were also magic weapons or magical powers among the other righteous and evil cultivators that could seal the space. Fairy Silver, how dare they show off their skills in front of you and play with the power of space? Why don't you teach them a lesson? Luo Hong, who was holding the 4 symbols moving talisman between his fingers, was not surprised by this predicament. He didn't run away at the first time, and he wanted to teleport away. It was indeed too disrespectful to the Cheyenne Jiao of Dajin. However, if Fairy Silver was willing to help, she could naturally suppress this space and let him escape. If this fairy could still use her magical powers, how could I fall into the hands of Taoist friends? Taoist friends should just pray for the best. If you can survive this, we may have the possibility of cooperation. Fairy Silver made it clear that she wanted to watch coldly. Whether Luo Hong lived or died had little to do with her. Although Luo Hong didn't have any expectations, he was still a little disappointed by being rejected so bluntly. Haha, they seem to have realized the previous misunderstanding and are coming for me. Luo Hong looked at the two sides of good and evil who were not stopping and flew towards him in a siege and couldn't help thinking in his heart, husband, what should we do now? Yuan Yao said in a slightly panicked voice in Danshan. There are about 70 to 80 Yuanying mid-stage cultivators on both sides of the righteous and evil. If these people join forces, even the spirit transformation cultivators will not be able to get away with it. Although Luo Hong has great magical powers, he is only a Yuanying mid-stage cultivator after all. His magic power is not infinite. Even if these people play a round-robin battle, they can tire him to death. Jaoa, you hide well. Your husband has his own way to break the situation. Since Luo Hong dared to ripen the Shiangxin fruit under the noses of both the righteous and evil sides, it was naturally not by luck, but by relying on something. I thought I would never have the chance to use it, so I just wanted to see how powerful this magical power is. Thinking of this, Luo Hong successively sacrificed several magic weapons including the spirit turtle shield and the 5-colored orb, pretending to resist to the end. After the cultivators fled to Luo Hong 100 feet away, Ming Dongzhi, who was excited, was the first to speak. The details of the Milan people are well known to my Yin Luo sect. There is absolutely no such person as you. Who are you? After the scene where both the righteous and the evil forces tried to stop Luo Hong from teleporting, the cultivators on both sides realized that the other party was neither a demon nor a righteous person. They were just making random suspicions before. Although this was very embarrassing and annoying, with the Shiangxin fruit in front of them, the cultivators chose to put aside their faces for the time being. Haha, I'm Zuo Bufan, a casual cultivator from Xianan, not worth mentioning. Luo Hong just needed time to perform the means he prepared, so he responded immediately. Xianan cultivator? Then what is the hatred between you and my Yin Luo sect? Why are you so cruel? Ming Dongzhi was slightly stunned and immediately felt depressed and wanted to vomit blood. Your sect leader personally led people to help the Milan people invade our Xianan cultivation world and was killed by me. What kind of hatred and resentment do you think there is between me and your sect? Luo Hong laughed and asked back. Humph, fellow Daoist Zuo is really good at tricking both the righteous and evil sects of my great Jin. Although I'm annoyed, I have to say that I admire you. Dushan Hao's face was as hen, and his pair of sword eyes stared at Luo Hong. Haha, to be honest, Zuo was completely unaware of the misunderstanding between the two of you, but I think it was your arrogance and looking down on the cultivators outside the Great Jin that caused the trouble. Luo Hong said calmly in the face of many Great Jin cultivators. Chapter 462, Pretend to break through. As soon as Luo Hong said this, the faces of the cultivators from both the righteous and evil sides immediately turned ugly, and the fierceness in their eyes suddenly increased. HMPH, Daoist Zuo, don't try to win your battle with words here. If you want to live, hand over the spirit beast on your shoulder and the Shiangxin fruit. Otherwise, Luo Panayang snorted coldly, his eyes were full of fierceness, and he threatened. Otherwise, are you going to bully the minority with your numbers? The righteous path of the Great Jin dynasty really lives up to its name. Luo Hong laughed disdainfully, with no intention of giving in. Haha, Daoist, you see it clearly. I want to know how you sneaked into the Taii Microdust array. Qiu Wuji chuckled rarely when he heard this, and asked with his eyes wandering between him and Wenke. Wenke was immediately panicked. If the other party told the truth, I'm afraid that not only would his Taii sect's reputation in the righteous path be damaged, but he and his two junior brothers would also be in danger. Qiu Wuji must have guessed something, so he deliberately asked this question. Zuo has a lot of experience in formations, and with the help of secret techniques, it is not difficult to sneak into a formation. This Taoist friend's spiritual awareness is comparable to Zuo's. He must be the contemporary demon of the Great Jin and Mo sect, right? Luo Hong would not do such a thing as crossing the river and destroying the bridge. He immediately covered up for Wenke and turned the topic to Qiu Wuji. It is Qiu. Since Taoist friend knows my name, why don't you hand over the storage bag quickly so that you can have a chance to reincarnate? Qiu Wuji crossed his arms and said without hiding his intention to kill and steal the treasure. Although the person in front of him had unpredictable magical powers and even he could not easily take him down, he was alone after all. Facing their siege, he would never be able to fight back. Haha, Zuo may disappoint brother Qiu. I have never had the habit of sitting and waiting to die. Luo Hong laughed loudly and then suddenly turned into a beam of light and broke through the siege towards Du Shanhao and others. His action immediately attracted Du Shanhao and others to attack at the same time. Suddenly, more than a dozen sword lights and knife shadows slashed towards Luo Hong. The sharp breath made many cultivators around stand up. However, Luo Hong chose this place to break out for a reason. When he just glanced at the crowd, he found that the magic weapons offered by Du Shanhao and others were either flying swords or flying knives. Obviously, these people came from killing sects that mainly practiced swords and knives. Because these cultivators focus on their own life magic weapons, their attacks are extremely fierce and powerful compared to cultivators of the same level. But Luo Hong's gold escape technique is their nemesis. When the sword lights and knife shadows approached, Luo Hong suddenly condensed a thin golden net around his body. When all the flying swords and knives touched this net, they were bounced out at a faster speed than when they came. Avoiding the golden net, Du Shanhao immediately recognized this magical power that was extremely restrained to him and shouted in great shock. You know, if a human cultivator does not have a special body, he can only make some achievements in the two escape techniques of water and soil due to his talent, and very few can learn the gold escape technique. Not to mention that the golden net for avoiding disasters can only be used after practicing the gold escape technique to the highest level. In the world, only the most powerful golden body moon corpse among the corpses can have this great supernatural power that does not reason with sword cultivators. After being shocked, Du Shanhao and others could not help but feel afraid of Luo Hong, and they were more determined to surround and kill him here. So, everyone ignored the flying swords and knives that bounced off, and immediately pinched their fingers and chanted spells, casting the 5-element magic, except the 2-element of gold and wood, trying to stop Luo Hong. As cultivators in the middle stage of the nascent soul, they were able to use the 5-element magic at will. In a breath, many fire dragons and earth pythons condensed and rushed towards Luo Hong viciously. Du Shanhao and the others thought that, although the 5-element magic was not a great magical power, it should not be difficult to stop the opponent with their combined efforts. However, facing these aggressive 5-element magic, Luo Hong had no intention of dodging at all. He was seen with 5-colored spiritual light flowing on his body, piercing fire when encountering fire, and piercing earth when encountering earth. No matter how powerful these 5-element magic were, they could not hurt him at all. Luo Hong's fight with Du Shanhao and the others was only in a flash. The cultivators did not expect Luo Hong to be so proficient in escape. Seeing that he was about to break out of the encirclement, many people showed a trace of anxiety on their faces. At this moment, Luo Hong's spiritual sense suddenly sounded an alarm. A golden shadow had escaped to the sky above his head at some point and was now falling straight down. Realizing that something was wrong, Luo Hong immediately offered the spirit turtle shield to resist. The next moment, he saw a diamond ring passing through the golden net without obstruction and hitting the spirit turtle shield firmly. Then, a shattering sound was heard, and the spirit turtle shield that helped Luo Hong block countless attacks was shattered into several pieces. The magic weapon was destroyed, and Luo Hong couldn't help but feel a tightness in his chest under the backlash. Fortunately, his physical body was strong, and he was not injured. After shattering the spirit turtle shield, the Vajra ring continued to hit Luo Hong's shoulder. Luo Hong didn't know the details of this treasure, so he didn't dare to let it approach him. He immediately opened his mouth and spit out a black and red fire crow. The black crow spread its wings and wrapped the Vajra ring that rushed straight in the spiritual flame. The next moment, a cry of pain came from not far away. Luo Hong turned around and saw that it was Wenke who was gritting his teeth to endure the pain of being burned by the scorching sun. There is no doubt that this Vajra ring is the opponent's magic weapon. Haha, it's not easy for him to try so hard to distance himself from me. Unexpectedly, although all the cultivators reacted to this obstacle and used magical powers other than the 5 element, forcing Luo Hong to retreat again and again, and soon return to the place before the breakout. He did not get angry. Zuo Bufan, you can't get away today no matter what. Surrender to us immediately, and you can have a chance of survival. Luo Panayang shouted at the right time. The reason why the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides did not rush up immediately and kill Luo Hong cleanly and neatly was because they belonged to 2 forces and were not united internally. They were very wary of each other and had a lot of thoughts. And the Shianxin fruit and Zyanogen were not something that could be cut apart, so everyone wanted them, but no one dared to take the initiative. Haha, who said Zuo was going to escape? Zuo happened to have a magical power, and I would like to ask you to learn a little bit. Although Luo Hong seemed a little embarrassed at this time, there was no fear on his face, but a smile of success. It was seen that the 5-colored gem that had been floating around him had changed at some point, and it actually emitted a terrifying spiritual fluctuation. It turned out that Luo Hong had just pretended to break through, and the real purpose was to cover up the movement before the 5-colored gem was activated. Now that the plan was completed, it was time for the 5-colored gem to show its power. When Luo Hong threw it out, all the cultivators present, including Qiyu Wuji, had a bad feeling in their spiritual senses. Chapter 463 Linglang Jade. The origin of this 5-color gem is not difficult to guess. It was a copy of the exquisite gem Luo Hong had seen in the 10,000 monsters realm. When the exquisite gem exploded and ascended to spirit that day, Luo Hong not only obtained the 5-color feathers, but also did not let go of the broken shell of the gem. Although it was broken beyond repair, it was an unfamiliar spiritual material after all. Luo Hong just collected it habitually at that time, and even forgot about it afterwards. Until one day, when he ascended to spirit and practiced the 5-element spiritual material used in the great 5-element Tang Shengju, he accidentally saw it in the Wanbao bag, so he was interested and studied it. As a result, this study immediately made Luo Hong discover the wonderful use of this spiritual material. The texture and appearance of this spiritual material are similar to mutton fat jade, smooth to the touch, and milky white. Because it was obtained from the exquisite gem, Luo Hong called it exquisite jade. As we all know, spiritual stone is actually a kind of spiritual material that can store spiritual energy, just like Luo Hong's battery in his previous life. Spirit stones of different grades are batteries with different energy storage limits. Luo Hong discovered through research that Linglang Jade also has the function of storing spiritual energy, but compared to spiritual stones, it becomes very unstable after storing spiritual energy. Basically, as long as it is slightly stimulated, it will release all the stored spiritual energy at once, and the way it releases is very special. Unlike ordinary spiritual stones, which slowly release spiritual energy outward, it is like a collapse effect. All the spiritual energy gathers to the center of the interior, and then suddenly explodes, and releases spiritual waves. The ancestors of the 5 families in Wushan discovered this characteristic of Linglang Jade, and formulated the plan to promote spirituality in the world of all monsters. Obviously, this characteristic of Linglang Jade is contrary to common sense. If it can be studied thoroughly, it will surely greatly promote the research on the gathering of spiritual particles. This work is quite difficult. After Luo Hong tried it, he decided to make it a long-term plan. However, although he did not understand the principle, it did not prevent Luo Hong from using the characteristics of Linglang Jade. And it is extremely lucky, but it can also be said that it is natural that there is a small vein of Linglang Jade in Wushan. Previously, the Wushan 5 families had never realized the value of this spiritual material, so they did not stop people from mining it. After all, once the Linglang Jade is exposed to the spiritual environment, it will slowly absorb the spiritual energy in the air, and then suddenly explode. Only by engraving array patterns on its surface, and combing and stabilizing the spiritual energy in the jade can the Linglang Jade that stores the spiritual energy maintain a stable state. This is not an easy task. Even Luo Hong failed several times before he succeeded. After all, it is quite difficult to engrave complex array patterns on a small piece of Linglang Jade. At this time, Luo Hong discovered that as the amount of spiritual energy stored in a unit of Linglong Jade increases, it will become more and more unstable, and Luo Hong has not yet discovered the upper limit of the spiritual energy storage of Linglong Jade. In other words, what currently limits the amount of spiritual energy stored in a unit of Linglong Jade is not its own material, but the stabilizing effect of the array patterns engraved by Luo Hong. Since the phenomenon of Linglong Jade releasing spiritual energy is almost exactly the same as the phenomenon of spiritual energy gathering during spiritual ascension, when Luo Hong uses secret techniques to integrate some spiritual materials into the center of Linglong Jade, and then refines it into spiritual storage jade, and then destroys the balance to make it release spiritual energy, the spiritual materials inside will complete the spiritual ascension and generate spiritual waves. At present, Linglong Jade can only be refined into a portable spiritual ascension instrument, and has no effect on improving combat power. But it just so happens that the 5 colored feathers in Luo Hong's hand will release a mysterious and abnormal 5 colored spiritual tide, after absorbing a large amount of spiritual energy. Combining the two, he can reproduce the 5 colored spiritual tide in the 10,000 monsters realm that day. Of course, the scale and power are definitely incomparable, but the essence of its magical power will not change. It was seen that the brightness of the 5 colored gem suddenly increased as soon as it escaped from Luo Hong's hand, and it reached a level that was difficult to see directly with the naked eye in less than a breath. What is really terrifying is that the spiritual energy fluctuations it emits are almost increasing by geometric orders of magnitude. What the hell? Could this be the legendary immortal destroying pearl? After realizing that something was wrong, one of the cultivators who hurriedly retreated guessed with a stammer. The immortal destroying pearl is a one-time ancient treasure from ancient times. Its function is similar to that of the heavenly thunder seed, but the heavenly thunder seed can only kill cultivators at the foundation building stage and below with one strike, while the immortal destroying pearl can easily destroy a divine transformation cultivator. Although it is unlikely that Luo Hong has the immortal destroying pearl, no one dares to gamble with their lives. Anyway, the encirclement is still there, and even if they retreat at this time, they will not let Luo Hong escape. Qiyu Wuji and Wenke are also retreating, and their speed is extremely fast, but the two of them are not as panicked as others. While retreating, they have been paying attention to the changes in the 5 color pearls and Luo Hong's movements, because they know very well that they can no longer escape the power range of the opponent's magic weapon. Retreating can only reduce the power they bear. If they want to resist it unscathed, they can only use corresponding self-defense methods. This required them to immediately identify the other party's magical power. The speed of escape of the mid-stage nascent soul cultivators was extremely fast. In just a moment, the cultivators of both the righteous and evil sides had already escaped several miles away. But this was all within Luo Hong's calculations. The moment he decided to show the 5 colored gem, these people were destined to taste its power. The next moment, the 5 colored gem shattered in the extremely dazzling spiritual light, and the gorgeous 5 colored spiritual tide swept out, first engulfing Luo Hong, who was closest to him. However, he had already used the power of heaven and earth to protect himself, so he was safe and sound at the moment. The 5 colored spiritual tide advanced at an extremely fast speed. It only took 2 or 3 breaths to catch up with the slowest retreating righteous and evil cultivators. At this moment, there was no time to escape, and these righteous and evil cultivators all used their own means of self-defense, but whether it was the magic weapon or themselves, the moment they came into contact with the 5 colored spiritual tide, they fell straight from the air like a machine that had lost power. For a moment, the high and mighty righteous and evil geniuses of the Great Jin dynasty fell to the ground like dumplings. Soon, the 5 colored spiritual tide arrived in front of Qiyu Wuji and others who retreated the fastest. The 5 element spiritual energy emitted by the 5 colored spiritual tide showed that it was a kind of 5 element magical power. If you want to compete with it, you must use magic weapons or magical powers outside the 5 element, or 5 element magic weapons that are higher than its magical power level. Although magic weapons or magical powers that are not within the 5 element are extremely rare, they are not out of reach for them. The top geniuses of the Great Jin dynasty. Wenke sacrificed a yellow umbrella at this moment. This umbrella was refined with special spiritual objects outside the 5-element, and it was quite effective in defending against the 5-element magical powers. He threw the yellow umbrella above his head and raised his hand to cast a spell. The umbrella immediately opened, and a yellow spiritual light was cast while spinning, protecting him and his 2 junior brothers. Chapter 464, Fighting the Demon. When the 5-colored spiritual tide came upon them, the yellow umbrella did not lose its spiritual energy and fall to the ground like the other magic weapons, but it was also swaying and looked like it could not hold up. Even though when Ken and the other 2 tried their best to infuse the umbrella with their magic power, they could not stabilize it. Although they held on for a while, the yellow umbrella was finally torn into pieces under the impact of the 5-colored spiritual tide. When Ken and the other 2 also inevitably fell from the sky, as if they had lost all their magic power. Not far away, Qiyu Wuji and the other 4 were taking shelter under an ancient demon statue, and they also showed signs of being unable to resist. Seeing when Ken and the other 3 being hit hard, Qiyu Wuji immediately realized that the level of the 5-colored spiritual tide was extremely high, and ordinary 5-element magic weapons could never resist it. With a change of mind, Qiyu Wuji flipped his palm and offered a fist-sized purple incense burner. With a push of his magic power, he opened the cover of the incense burner, and then he turned into a light and drilled into the incense burner. The long-faced demon cultivator at the side saw the opportunity quickly and followed closely to escape into the incense burner magic weapon. Without the mana supply of the 2 people, the ancient demon statue could no longer resist the colorful spiritual tide and shattered into slag in an instant. The other 2 demon cultivators of the heavenly demon sector were exposed to the colorful spiritual tide, immediately had their mana imprisoned and fell to the ground screaming like mortals. Beside them, the purple gold incense burner also lost its spiritual energy and fell to the ground, as if Qiyu Wuji had made a wrong calculation. At this point, the airspace that was originally bustling and crowded with Yuanying cultivators was cleared, and now only Luo Hong was still suspended in the air. When the cultivation of immortal cultivators reaches the middle stage of Yuanying, even if they never practice the method of body refining, their bodies are much stronger than ordinary mortals. In addition, the cultivators are not high above the ground, and there is no dangerous terrain around the Shiangxin Divine Tree. Therefore, although the wailing Dajin Qianjiao could be seen everywhere, the most seriously injured were only some superficial injuries such as broken tendons and bones. Once their mana was restored, these injuries could be healed in a moment. Haha, the power of this 5-color divine light is really extraordinary. Even with such a crude use, it can still make the Dajin Qianjiao helpless. It is worthy of being a true spiritual power. I just don't know which one is better, this 5-color divine light, or Han Laomo's Yuanxi divine light. After this trip to the Black Domain, Luo Hong has basically determined the origin of the 5-color feathers. In all likelihood, it came from the 5-color peacock that fell at the bottom of the shattered sky pit. Even the great 5-element Tang Shengju itself has a very deep connection with the 5-color peacock. After all the body refining techniques circulated among the human race are derived from various rare birds and beasts. The essence of the body refining technique is to make the weak flesh of the human race gradually approach various rare birds and beasts. Therefore, when the body refining technique is cultivated to a certain level, it can breed the Dharma phase. If it is more advanced, it can produce the magical power of transformation. The Dharma phase and the phase of transformation must be related to the rare birds and beasts corresponding to the body refining technique. Although the righteous and evil geniuses of the great Jin who besieged him at this time had become lambs to be slaughtered, Luo Hong did not take the opportunity to kill them to vent his anger. After all, these people are backed by the 20 top sects of the great Jin. It is no joke to offend them at the same time. The means of the 5-color gems are mainly about surprise. If it happens again, Luo Hong dare not guarantee its effect. If this matter is maintained at the level of competing for the ancient elixir, those old monsters who have retreated from the world will not be drawn out. Thinking of this, Luo Hong stretched out his hand and took back the 5-color feathers. In fact, the real combat function of Linglang Jade is to develop portable fusion bombs. However, with my current ability, I cannot make Linglang Jade maintain a stable state after storing enough spiritual energy to cause a fusion reaction. If I can do this, after using the Shiangxin fruit, to comprehend the Jink Jade book, it is not impossible to mass produce the immortal destroying pearl. While muttering to himself about his ambition, Luo Hong put the 5 colored feathers into the Wanbao bag, and was about to activate the 4-elephant transfer talisman to escape. However, at this moment, spatial interference interrupted his transmission again. Surprised, Luo Hong looked at the source of the spatial interference, and saw a purple gold incense burner floating several feet above the ground. Along with the trembling furnace cover, spatial fluctuations continued to overflow from the furnace. After a breath, the purple gold furnace cover suddenly soared into the sky, and then 2 escape lights flew out of the furnace. They were Qiyu Wuji and the long-faced demon cultivator. It turned out that the purple gold incense burner that Qiyu Wuji sacrificed at the last moment was a space magic weapon. He took the risk of being trapped in it and hid in the space inside the burner, thus avoiding the 5-colored spiritual tide. But the purple gold incense burner did not escape the power of the 5-colored spiritual tide, so it was so difficult for them to get out. Brother Qiyu is so desperate, it seems that you have made up your mind to fight with Zuo? To be honest, Luo Hong did not want to fight with Qiyu Wuji now. After all, those cultivators who were hit would recover their magic power in a few hours. If he was supported by the other party, it would be extremely bad. Brother Zuo's magic power also amazed Qiyu, but the Shiangxin fruit is something Qiyu must fight for, so there is no need for us to say more nonsense. As soon as the voice fell, Qiyu Wuji turned his own magic power to the extreme, and the magic energy around him rose, and quickly condensed a 10-foot tall ancient magic image behind him. This was also a godsend opportunity for Qiyu Wuji. As long as he could seize the Shiangxin fruit before the cultivators recovered, he could save countless troubles. The long-faced demon cultivator on the side laughed sinisterly and released countless fluorescent green poisonous insects, intending to cooperate with Qiyu Wuji to deal with Luo Hong. Realizing that this battle was inevitable, Luo Hong immediately decided to use thunderous means to make a quick decision. Facing the flying poisonous insects, Luo Hong's mind moved, and he ordered Zyojin on his shoulder to shoot out a formless golden light. With a sweep of the golden light, the poisonous insects that the long-faced demon cultivator had high hopes for suddenly disintegrated and died, and the whole group was wiped out cleanly. Seeing this, the long-faced demon cultivator almost spit out a mouthful of old blood. You know, he spent countless efforts and resources on this group of spirit insects. Seeing the long-faced demon cultivator so distressed, Luo Hong knew that the group of spirit insects was the opponent's main means. So he sent Zyojin to meet the enemy without worry, and he turned his palm to sacrifice the dazzling magic mirror. Compared with the time when he fought against the big-eared woman, Luo Hong's magic power has increased several times, and summoning the ancient magic image in the mirror is no longer as difficult as before. As the dark demonic energy surged, an ugly ancient demon with a height of more than 10 feet, black scales all over the body, and eyes as big as buckets was summoned. The heavy loss of the long-faced demon cultivator did not cause Qiyu Wuji's state of mind to fluctuate a little, but when Luo Hong summoned the Dharma image of the soul-stealing true demon, his face suddenly changed. He clearly sensed that the opponent's ancient demon image exuded the aura of the true demon. Without fighting, Qiyu Wuji knew that the ancient demon image he summoned would definitely be at a disadvantage. Fortunately, he had another way. As soon as he moved his mind, 4 blood-colored streams of light flew out of the storage bag on his waist and fell into the 4 palms of the ancient demon image he condensed. The streams of light took shape and turned into 4 types of magic weapons: knives, forks, swords, and halberds. Then, Qiyu Wuji turned his palm and sacrificed a blood cloud with a screaming sound and threw it to the ancient demon image with a look of regret on his face. The blood cloud flew to the vicinity of the 4 magic weapons and was immediately split into 4, each of which was immersed in a magic weapon. Suddenly, the 4 magic weapons glowed with blood and exuded a thick true demonic aura. After the 4-armed ancient magic phase absorbed it, its aura immediately increased by several levels. Chapter 465, Spiritual Art Golden Crow. As soon as Qiyu Wuji finished casting the spell, the soul-stealing true magic phase wielded the demon head hammer and attacked. The sound thunder of the magic bell drum had little effect on the magic cultivators, and it consumed a lot of magic energy, so Luo Hong did not use it. But as long as the demon head hammer was there, the soul-stealing true magic phase would have infinite magic energy to squander, and it would definitely not be difficult to resist Qiu Wuji's four-armed ancient magic phase. So when the two Dharma phases were head-on, Luo Hong used the technique of shrinking the earth into an inch, and suddenly fled to Qiu Wuji's front, and his right fist wrapped in black crow true flames struck out with lightning speed. Qiu Wuji did not expect Luo Hong to come so fiercely, and immediately frowned, dodged, and retreated, and offered a huge white bone magic shield to block in front of him. Luo Hong did not hold back at this moment, and the punch he swung with all his strength instantly pierced Qiu Wuji's body protection magic shield and hit the white bone magic shield firmly. There was a loud bang, and a violent wave of air exploded. It was unknown what kind of beast's bones this white bone magic shield was made of, but it was surprisingly hard. Even Luo Hong's full strength attack could only leave a few cracks on it. Just when Luo Hong was dissatisfied with the result, Qiu Wuji was extremely shocked. This Ruai white bone shield was made by the contemporary ancestor of the Shi and Mo sect, Hu Yan, and was made from the corpse of a god-level monster. It was always invulnerable to water and fire, and nothing could break it. However, this shield was now seriously damaged by the opponent's punch, and it looked like it could not withstand a few punches. Qiu Wuji was well aware of the terrifying physical body of the opponent. This person was able to conceal his divine thoughts from me and sneak to the vicinity of the Shiaxin divine tree. His Yuanshan realm must be not inferior to mine. His magic power is also extremely pure and bottomless. Now he has revealed his powerful physical body. Could it be that this person is a practitioner of the three realms of Dharma, body and God? Qiu Wuji was shocked by Luo Hong's talent, but he had no time to think about it at this moment. With a surge of demonic energy all over his body, he escaped dozens of feet away. Luo Hong's physical body was powerful, so he naturally would not fight him in close combat. Fortunately, although the purple gold incense burner was severely damaged by his forced activation this time, the spatial fluctuations it transmitted also blocked Luo Hong's teleportation ability. Otherwise, if Luo Hong got the upper hand at this time, he would be chased and hammered. After missing the first attack, Luo Hong did not pursue him. After all, the opponent's escape technique was also quite exquisite. If it evolved into a chase battle, they would have to fight for several days and nights. Qiu Wuji was also feeling a headache at this time. The opponent's 5-element escape technique was so superb that he might have already refined it into a 5-element escape technique. This directly destroyed most of his magical powers and magic weapons. After a quick thought, Qiu Wuji turned his palm and sacrificed a small mountain of bones. With the help of his magic power, it instantly grew to a height of several dozen feet. Just when Luo Hong thought that the opponent was going to use this mountain to suppress him, the sound of swooshing breaking through the air sounded one after another. It was seen that the small mountain of bones was actually composed of countless white bone blades. Now it was scattered and directly covered a large area of the sky. The power was extremely amazing. This Wanren mountain was one of the most powerful magic weapons in Qiu Wuji's hand. Although the bone knives that this treasure could split into were less than 10,000, there were also 2 or 3,000, and only his powerful consciousness could drive them. At this time, 2 or 3,000 white bone flying knives merged into a river of knives, sweeping towards Luo Hong. After a brief sense of his spiritual sense, Luo Hong knew that this treasure was purely based on quantity. There were no complex restrictions on the blade, which meant that it could not form a sword formation. After seeing through this, Luo Hong immediately sacrificed the Zhenhe pearl without fear. After using his magic power to make it change to the size of a house, he cast several spells in succession to make it slowly rotate. In the more than 10 years in the Posolian formation, although Yuan Yao was mainly protecting him, she never stopped sacrificing the Zhenhe pearl. At this time, the Zhenhe pearl only had a few years of polishing to become a complete treasure of the universe, and now it can barely show its power. Yin inside and yang outside, the universe is born. As the last spell was cast, the area around the Zhenhe pearl suddenly became blurred, and a force that seemed to be able to distort everything came into being. At this moment, a rolling river of knives swept in, full of the posture of wanting to cut Luo Hong into pieces. However, Luo Hong, who was standing on the Zenhei Pearl, only made a spell, and the fierce white bone knife river separated from it, strangely bypassing him. Before Qiyu Wuji could react, the spell in Luo Hong's hand suddenly changed, and an invisible huge force suddenly surged out, blowing away all the white bone flying knives surrounding the Zenhei Pearl. There were constant wailing sounds in the knife river, and with just this one blow, countless white bone flying knives broke. After breaking Qiyu Wuji's magic weapon, Luo Hong's mind moved, and the Zenhei Pearl returned to its original size. Then he flicked his finger, and the Zenhei Pearl turned into a blue stream of light, shooting towards Qiyu Wuji. Seeing this, Qiyu Wuji did not dare to neglect it, and immediately fled from the spot. However, before he could use new means, the Zenhei Pearl suddenly became larger dozens of feet away from him, and burst out with a strange and huge suction force, imprisoning his body. Seeing the Zenhei Pearl spinning and crushing towards him, Qiyu Wuji first used several magic weapons to resist, but none of them could shake the Zenhei Pearl. In the end, Qiyu Wuji had no choice but to use an evil puppet. After spitting a large mouthful of blood, his figure strangely appeared more than 100 feet away. Huh. It can escape my divine lock. Could it be that evil and strange puppet? Luo Hong was secretly surprised, but he didn't care much. After all, it was extremely difficult to refine such evil things of the magic way, and even if the other party was a demon, he must have only one on his body. After two dangerous situations, Qiyu Wuji had to admit that the other party's magical power was still above his. However, as a demon cultivator, he was not short of desperate means to squeeze himself. Facing such a strong enemy like Luo Hong, he dared not hold back anymore. He immediately recalled the four-armed ancient magic phase, asked him to put down the two magic weapons, and grabbed the Ruai white bones with both hands to guard in front of him. Luo Hong then sensed the violent fluctuations of demonic energy. Seeing this, how could he not know that Qiyu Wuji was holding back his ultimate move? But the bone shield was really hard enough, and Luo Hong had no confidence that he could break it in a short time. Moreover, the opponent's Yuan Shen was not weak, and it was very easy to be backfired when he cast a spell. Since there was little hope of stopping it, Luo Hong had to deal with it with the same ruthlessness. He recalled the Zenhei Pearl, and with a thought, he summoned the Black Crow True Flame, and then with a flick of his sleeves, he sacrificed the 5-element flag around his body. Then, Luo Hong held the Black Crow True Flame with one hand, raised it above his head, and kept chanting the spell. Suddenly, the surrounding heaven and earth aura was like hot oil with cold water poured into it, and it became violently agitated and rushed towards Luo Hong. At this moment, the 5-element flag flashed with a spiritual light, exerting its magical power of transforming the 5-element of aura, and transformed all the incoming heaven and earth aura into fire aura. The black and red fire crow in Luo Hong's palm cried loudly, and then rolled on the ground, and turned into a black and red fireball, and it became bigger and bigger in the continuous influx of fire spirit energy. This is exactly the highest level spiritual art that Luo Hong has mastered, Golden Crow. Because this spiritual art requires the practitioner to have a very high degree of control over the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, Luo Hong could not perform it before, but now he is no longer the same as before, and the requirements of this spiritual art are not a problem at all. Therefore, although it was the first time to perform it, he still seemed to be at ease. As time passed, the black and red fireball held by Luo Hong had expanded to the size of a small mountain. The amazing spiritual pressure and scorching breath it exuded made many of the great Jin righteous and evil geniuses lying on the ground, regardless of the pain, desperately stay away. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 466. The Devil Frightens the Heart. Not good. These two are going to fight. Regardless of the outcome, I'm afraid it will affect us. Brother, help me. My leg is broken. Go. Go. Just as the cultivators on the ground were panicking, Qiyu Wuji was even more horrified. He didn't expect that. Just when he was about to attack fiercely, the other party came with a more fierce one. At the moment, he was already riding a tiger and couldn't get off. He had no choice but to fight hard. Thinking of this, Qiyu Wuji suddenly showed a fierce look on his face, and his hands kept chanting magic spells. A magic light came out of his mouth and shot directly at the back of the Dharma image in front of him. With a roar, the four-armed ancient magic image suddenly disintegrated into a large amount of magic energy, and then it seemed to have life, frantically drilling into Qiyu Wuji's body. In pain, Qiyu Wuji let out a crazy and gradually inhuman laugh, and the circle of magic light condensed around him also expanded rapidly, and soon reached a level that was comparable to the fireball condensed by Luo Hong. On the ground, when Ka looked up at the sky and saw two black suns in the sky, one was wrapped in spiritual flames, burning fiercely. The abundance of spiritual energy made him palpitate. The other was jumping with thunder and lightning, screaming in bursts, and the fierceness of the demonic energy made him terrified. If it were normal, he would definitely stop and watch such an unprecedented battle. No matter who won or lost, he would admire it. However, at this moment, when Ka only felt an inexplicable stomach-ache and bitterness in his mouth, he couldn't help but lament while fleeing in embarrassment. It's bitter. In the dark demonic sun, Qiyu Wuji's body had been severely demonized due to forcibly swallowing a large amount of demonic energy. Horns grew on his forehead and demonic scales grew on his skin, making him look extremely inhuman. What's more terrifying is that his consciousness has gradually become a little blurred under the impact of a large amount of demonic energy. He understood that he had reached his limit. On the other side, Luo Hong felt that the fireball he was holding was as heavy as a 1,000-foot mountain. The flames on its surface were running wildly, which was a sign that it was about to get out of control. At this moment, Luo saw the lightning devil sun transformed by Qiyu Wuji suddenly rushing towards him, and he stopped asking for too much. With a single wave of his hand, he threw out the black and red sun above his head. Seeing that the two extreme moves were about to collide, the cultivators on the ground stopped running away. They sat down cross-legged and used the little magic power they had just recovered to hold up the spiritual shield. The next moment, the two suns collided with each other slowly but quickly in the eyes of everyone. For a moment, a loud bang broke out. The sound wave contained the spiritual howling devil sound, which immediately caused the earth to shake and all the beasts to run. Then, the two suns broke almost at the same time in the collision, and the spiritual energy and devil energy that were exuded in the squeezing intertwined, releasing one powerful shock wave after another. The cultivators on the ground were like a lone boat in a storm, struggling to support themselves on the undulating ground. Finally, the two suns merged into one day. In the extremely dazzling spiritual light, there was only a crisp cry, and a pair of fire wings were displayed. With this cry, a circle of black and red spiritual waves with terrifying spiritual pressure swept out. Once they came into contact with this spiritual wave, the cultivators who had been holding on until now had their protective spiritual shields broken, vomiting blood and flying backwards. Although when Ka was powerful, he was not much better than others when he could not mobilize his magic power. Being hit by the black and red spiritual wave, not to mention the pain of the flesh, the pain caused by the fire invading his body and causing his internal organs to burn almost made him faint. Fortunately, this fire came and went quickly, otherwise there would be a large number of casualties among the cultivators. Suddenly, a silver rune lit up in the palms of everyone at the same time, and the space gradually fluctuated. How can it be so fast? Shouldn't there be another day? The appearance of this rune was a sign that the black domain would teleport everyone. Although it was one day earlier this time, most of the righteous and evil geniuses were very grateful for it. Luo Hong in the air, looked at the rune on his palm and immediately realized what was about to happen. He frowned and immediately went towards Siwu Zenan. At the same time, Xiaojin also flew back with a storage bag in his mouth. The long-faced demon cultivator happened to have a high-level gold-level protective magic weapon in his hand. Xiaojin's formless golden light could not kill him instantly, but it also suppressed him. When the two collided, Xiaojin relied on his tyrannical body to resist the impact, and launched a fierce attack on the long-faced demon cultivator. In the end, he scratched his protective magic weapon with one claw, destroyed his physical body, and swallowed his nascent soul. Luo Hong didn't have time to praise Zhao Jin at this time, because in his spiritual sense, Qiyu Wuji's physical body had turned to ash, but his nascent soul escaped at the last moment, and used the method of concealment to hide. Qiyu Wuji's Yuanshan was not weak, and his key collecting technique was also very extraordinary. Luo Hong couldn't find his trace with his spiritual sense alone. Then, Luo Hong opened his eyes between his eyebrows, revealing his petrified demon eyes. With a quick glance, he discovered the abnormality of the spiritual energy. Since he had destroyed Qiyu Wuji's body, the great hatred had already been formed, so Luo Hong naturally wanted to wipe him out completely. However, at this time, the space fluctuations around him became more and more violent. He was afraid that in a few more breaths, he would be teleported out of the black domain, thus missing the opportunity to destroy the enemy. After hesitating for a moment, Luo Hong decided to take some risks. With a thought, 36 soul-destroying spells flew out of the treasure bag, and the formation was set in an instant. Qiyu Wuji's Yuanying, who was hiding in the air, found that he was about to be teleported, and he was naturally overjoyed. Although his body was destroyed this time, his storage bag was not lost. After returning, he only needed to take over another body and practice for more than 100 years to restore his cultivation and supernatural powers. By then, he must go to Xianan and kill all the people and animals related to Zuo Bufan. As soon as the evil thought came to his mind, he saw Zuo Bufan seemed to have seen through his tracks and rushed towards him, obviously intending to kill him completely. It's too late. You just wait for Qiyu's crazy revenge. Qiyu Wuji's Yuanying showed a grim smile, and he said in his heart. Suddenly, his consciousness sensed the violent fluctuations of consciousness from the other party. Qiyu Wuji practiced the heavenly demon shocking heart method, and he was best at various spiritual consciousness secrets. He immediately understood Luo Hong's intention. You actually want to kill me with spiritual consciousness secrets? You are courting death. Qiyu Wuji was stunned at first, and then his face showed ecstasy. It seems that this person does not know the power of the heavenly demon shocking heart method. If he loses to me in the spiritual consciousness competition, it will not be as simple as a little backlash. Qiyu Wuji guessed that the other party thought that his soul was injured in the previous confrontation, and he had no time to use other means at this moment, so he chose to use the spiritual consciousness secret. But because he decisively gave up his body, his soul was not seriously affected. In the competition of spiritual consciousness, the defending party has a great advantage. After all, the attacking party cannot integrate all the power of the soul into one attack, while the defending party can use all the power of the soul to resist the attack. Therefore, in the competition of spiritual consciousness between two parties with similar soul realms, the defending party will always win. Qiyu Wuji practiced the heavenly demon heart-shaking art, which can devour the soul of the immortal cultivator who lost to him in the competition of spiritual consciousness, thereby strengthening himself. Facing this inevitable game of turning defeat into victory, he did not hesitate to use the heavenly demon heart-shaking art with all his strength to guard his mind, and only waited for Luo Hong to be backlashed, and then devoured Luo Hong's soul. The next moment, Luo Hong's 6/6 soul-destroying curse was cast, and the invisible power of the curse instantly descended on Qiyu Wuji's nascent soul. Before the grim smile on his face disappeared, the nascent soul flew away and disintegrated like a pile of sand in a strong wind. Caught up. Just when Luo Hong breathed a sigh of relief, he saw Qiyu Wuji's scattered nascent soul suddenly gathered towards the center under an unknown force, and after forming a grey ball of light, it rushed straight towards Luo Hong's eyebrows at an unimaginable speed. Chapter 467 Earth Dragon Rolls. Before Luo Hong could react, a silver light flashed around him, teleporting him out of the black domain. At this moment, a silver light suddenly flashed in the airspace somewhere in the Xianlan grassland, and then a figure suddenly appeared. It was Luo Hong who had returned with a full load. However, at this moment, there was no joy on his face for killing powerful enemies and harvesting treasures. Instead, veins on his forehead bulged, and his face was full of pain. All this came from the grey ball that rushed into his brows just before the teleportation. In the Danshan, Yuan Yao looked anxiously at Luo Hong's Yuan Ying, who was shrouded in the grey light ball and screaming in pain, but she had no way to do anything. This grey light ball seemed to have identified Luo Hong alone, and even if she wanted to share some of the burden, she couldn't do it. At this moment, Luo Hong only felt that his Yuanshan was about to be blown up, and there were constantly fragments of Qiyu Wuji's memory rolling in his Yuanshan, like a blade cutting him. This kind of pain from the depths of the soul was useless, even if Luo Hong's body was strong. Soon, he fell from the sky unbearably, creating a pit on the ground. In agony, Luo Hong waved his fist and smashed the ground without reservation. With one punch, a large area of grass broke apart like a spider web, causing a small earthquake. Such a huge movement immediately alarmed a Tuwu tribe dozens of miles away. The young tribal warrior Sanda rushed into the tent of the tribal elders and shouted, "Chief Ying, the earth dragon is moving. Please organize everyone to migrate immediately." Ying Lu is the leader of this Macro Tuwu tribe. In his early years, he participated in the Holy War against the Yumulan people and made many military achievements, which allowed him to open up a new tribe. At present, Ying Lu is old and has long passed the stage of bravery and fighting. He now regards this Macro tribe of only 50,000 to 60,000 people under his command as more important than anything else. Although the rolling of the earth dragon is not a big threat to the Kanglu tribe, which mainly lives in tents, it will inevitably cause wild animals in an area to become restless. If the monsters are disturbed, it will be even more serious. Therefore, the best way to deal with it is to leave this area as much as possible. Fortunately, the Saint clan has driven away the Mulan people and monopolized the Xianlan grassland. There are plenty of grasslands suitable for grazing, so they don't have to worry about not finding a place to stay after migration. Okay, you immediately pass the order down and ask the tribesmen to pack up their things and load the beast carts. We will migrate to the south. After receiving the order, Sanda turned around and was about to leave, but heard Ying Lu at, "There is one more thing. You go and ask Master Zhu to help in person, to prevent monsters from attacking the tribe." "Got it, Chief." Sanda responded loudly and rushed out of the tent. But unexpectedly, after running a few steps, he ran into Master Zhu, who was in a hurry. The mortals on the Xianlan grassland were not unfamiliar with immortal cultivators. In fact, in order to deal with various natural disasters and beasts on the grassland, each tribe would offer sacrifices to one or more immortal masters. The poorest tribe, such as the Kanglu tribe, had to work hard to offer sacrifices to an immortal master, and the immortal masters willing to be offered sacrifices by such tribes must have low cultivation. But no matter how poor the cultivation, immortal masters were not something that mortals could contend with. So when Sanda saw the immortal master surnamed Zhu, he bowed respectfully. He was about to speak when he heard the other party hurriedly say, "Is the leader in the tent?" "The leader is in the tent right now, and he asked me to pass the message to the immortals." Sanda had not finished speaking when the immortal master surnamed Zhu passed him and walked straight to the big tent. Although Sanda was very confused about this, he did not dare to ask more questions and turned around to pass on the message to the tribe members. The tent door was suddenly opened and Ying Lu was almost startled. After seeing who was coming, he hurriedly said, "Master Zhu, the earth dragon is rolling. This place may not be suitable for living in the short term. The tribe will move south. Please protect us along the way. I will give you 20% more of this year's offerings." "Chief Ying, this is not the earth dragon rolling, but the opportunity between you and me." Zhu Jun's eyes showed a hint of enthusiasm, and he said excitedly, "It's not the earth dragon rolling? Master Zhu, don't be ridiculous. If it's not the earth dragon rolling, how can there be such a big movement?" Ying Lu smiled bitterly and said in disbelief, "How can the earth dragon rolling cause such a drastic change in spiritual energy? This movement must be caused by a high-level immortal master. And listen to the rhythm of this roar. Does it sound like the rhythm of a horse mating?" Although Zhu Jun's cultivation is only in the middle stage of key refining, he is also an immortal cultivator and can naturally perceive the changes in the spiritual energy around him. "Master Zhu, do you mean that this noise is caused by the mating of high-level immortal masters?" Ying Lu was shocked. He had never known that when high-level immortal masters did that, there would be such a big noise. Zhu Jun was about to faint from anger. If the unknown high-level immortal master heard this, he would extract his soul and refine his spirit. Spirit beast. It's a spirit beast. This must be the high-level immortal master's spirit beast mating, causing the noise. Zhu Jun's words woke the dreamer up. Lu had participated in the Holy War and witnessed the giant beasts in the immortal master's army that were like small mountains. He immediately believed what the other party said. But, how could the high-level immortal master take us seriously? If we rashly approach him, I'm afraid we will annoy him. Lu already understood what the other party meant by the opportunity. To put it bluntly, he wanted to please the high-level immortal master and get some benefits. But how could the other party be so easy to talk to? If he made a mistake, I'm afraid the entire Kanglu tribe would be finished. Chief Ying, have you forgotten the phoenix blood Gynoderma in the warehouse? This medicine can greatly increase the chances of spiritual beasts getting pregnant. If we offer it to them, the high-level immortal master will definitely not treat us unfairly. High-level spiritual beasts are extremely difficult to breed. Not only do they rarely go into heat, but it is also impossible to tell when they will go into heat. It is unlikely that the other party happens to carry spiritual medicine such as phoenix blood Gynoderma. If they can help them at this time, they will indeed be able to reap great rewards. No. Phoenix blood Gynoderma is an important tribute. It is related to the spiritual opening day that happens once every 20 years. It must not be used. Lu immediately became furious like a cat whose tail was stepped on and waved his hands repeatedly to refuse. Zhu Jun gradually became impatient. He pointed in the direction where the earthquake came from and said excitedly, "Listen to this noise. Don't you have any idea about the cultivation level of this senior? Just to establish a good relationship with him is probably much more useful than taking your people to participate in 3 spirit opening days. If the senior can take a fancy to a young man from your clan, even if he only accepts him as a registered disciple, the Kanglu tribe will immediately prosper. Such a good opportunity. Are you willing to miss it, leader?" Lu couldn't help but hesitate when he heard this. What Zhu Jun said made a lot of sense. Even if the high-level immortal master did not give any substantial benefits, just showed goodwill to the Kanglu tribe to outsiders, the Kanglu tribe could grow rapidly. After some consideration, Lu finally decided to take a gamble. He slapped the armrest of the wooden chair and said loudly, "Okay, Master Zhu, I will go get the phoenix blood Gynoderma and go with you to offer the medicine to that person." "That's right, Chief, hurry up, or you may miss it." Zhu Jun was overjoyed and urged him. A moment later, Sander, holding a jade box in his hand, was surprised to be called by Zhu Jun to board his flying boat, which he always treasured. "Chief, where are we going?" "Silly boy, the chief will take you to broaden your horizons today. Hold the jade box tight." This was also Lu's first time flying a boat, and he pretended to be calm. Chapter 468, Seed of the Devil. Carrying Yinglu and the other 2, Zhu Jun flew the spirit boat for half an hour. The agitated spiritual energy in his eyes gradually calmed down, and the vibration of the ground also weakened until it disappeared. After discovering this, Zhu Jun was afraid of missing the opportunity, so he took out the spiritual stones that he was reluctant to use for cultivation and accelerated the speed of the spirit boat. Finally, the 3 of them arrived near the epicenter. Looking at the grass that was almost plowed and in a mess, the 3 of them couldn't help swallowing their saliva. "Why can't we see the spirit beast here? The spirit beast that can cause such a commotion must be so big that it can be seen at a glance." After looking around, Yinglu said with some anxiety. Zhu Jun was also very confused. He saw that his eyes were shining, and he was performing the spirit eye technique. As a result, when the spirit eye opened, the scene he saw almost made him drop his jaw. It was seen that the spiritual energy of the world within a radius of 100 miles merged into a series of colorful light bands, floating and gathering together. In panic, his spiritual eye technique was broken, and he immediately saw a naked man sitting cross-legged in a deep pit, with a look of pain on his face. Zhu Jun instantly realized that the noise here was not what he imagined, but was caused by the naked man venting his pain after being seriously injured. Suddenly, his heart sank. The other party's situation was the most taboo for others to disturb him. If he was discovered by the other party, his life might be in danger. Thinking of this, Zhu Jun turned the bow of the boat without saying a word, wanting to stay away from this place of trouble. Ying Lu, who was standing by, wanted to ask a few questions, but seeing Zhu Jun's extremely panicked expression, he couldn't help but hold back his words. Just as Zhu Jun was casting a spell to control the boat, a light dong sound suddenly reached his ears. All of a sudden, Zhu Jun seemed to fall into an ice cave. He raised his head tremblingly and was shocked to find that the naked man who was a mile away just now was now standing on his spiritual boat. Senior, I have no ill intentions. Please be magnanimous and don't bother with me. Although his spiritual sense could not sense any spiritual energy on the shirtless man, and the other party was just like an ordinary person, Zhu Jun was still very decisive. He knelt down with a thump and begged for mercy and fear. Sander was stunned. This immortal Master Zhu, who usually commanded the tribe, was so humble and begging for mercy at this moment. He couldn't believe his eyes. May I ask which tribe you are from? I'm the leader of the nearby Kanglu tribe. I'm here just to check the situation. I have no ill intentions. Although Ying Lu did not kneel down, he bent his waist very low. At this time, his identity as immortal was safer. Just checking the situation. Why do you carry spiritual medicine with you? Luo Hong swept his eyes over the three abrupt people in front of him and spoke coldly. This. Zhu Jun didn't know how to explain for a moment. If he told the truth, he was afraid that the other party would kill him in anger. The chief said that there are sacred beasts mating here, so they come to offer tribute. Sander, who knew the least about the current situation, didn't think much and directly revealed the truth. This made Zhu Jun and Ying Lu's heart suddenly skip a beat. As soon as the voice fell, Luo Hong stretched out his hand and grabbed the jade box held in Sander's arms. Phoenix blood Ganoderma? It's rare for a small tribe like yours to produce this thing. Luo Hong said in a slightly slow tone. To offer tribute to the senior, we naturally have to take out the best things of our tribe. Zhu Jun suddenly felt that there was still hope of survival and said flatteringly, this medicine is indeed useful for Zuo's spiritual beast. Chief, can Zuo visit your tribe as a guest? Luo Hong's eyes moved slightly and looked at Ying Lu. This is an honor for our Kanglu tribe. But the senior seems to be injured. Don't you need to meditate and recuperate? If Luo Hong was not injured, Ying Lu would be overjoyed to hear this. But now Ying Lu is worried about being involved in the dispute between high-level immortal masters. The injury suffered by Zuo was just caused by something wrong during cultivation. If there really is an enemy of Zuo nearby, do you think you can still survive now? Luo Hong seemed to be able to see through Ying Lu's heart. When he spoke, his tone became cold again. It's my stupidity. Please come to visit our Kanglu tribe, Master Zuo. Ying Lu didn't dare to say anything else and quickly agreed. Seeing him like this, Luo Hong nodded with satisfaction, picked up the Phoenix blood Ganoderma in the jade box, and fed it to Zhao Jin on his shoulder. Although the grade of this Phoenix blood Ganoderma is not high and the age is less than 500 years, it is still useful to use it to replenish Zhao Jin's blood. Seeing Luo Hong feeding his tribe's most precious spiritual medicine to his spirit beast, Sander murmured something, but was immediately blocked by Ying Lu's vicious eyes. In Ying Lu's view, Luo Hong's action was to accept their offerings. As long as he served them carefully, their lives would be safe. Maybe he could really seek some opportunities for his tribe. Afterwards, Zhu Jun sat cross-legged at the stern and drove the spirit boat towards Kanglu. Luo Hong stood at the bow, with his back to the three people, and a look of pain appeared on his cold face. What a heavenly demon sect, what a demon. Suppressing his anger, Luo Hong gritted his teeth in his heart. The ball of grey light that invaded his soul was the soul of Qiyu Wuji that was dispersed by him using the 6-6 soul destroying curse, so there were a lot of memory fragments mixed in it. Fortunately, the 6-6 soul destroying curse was strong enough to completely shatter Qiyu Wuji's soul. These memory fragments did not have any substantial effect on him except for giving Luo Hong a splitting headache. On the contrary, after absorbing Qiyu Wuji's soul, Luo Hong's soul jumped from the 6th derivation realm to the 7th derivation realm. But this was not a good thing, because when passively devouring Qiyu Wuji's soul, Luo Hong keenly sensed that a group of foreign objects wanted to take the opportunity to take root in the depths of his soul. It was because of the constant confrontation with it that Luo Hong struggled on the ground for so long. In the fierce confrontation, Luo Hong discovered that the essence of this group of foreign objects was a pure demonic energy. Its level was even far higher than the real demonic energy that Luo Hong had seen, beyond his cognition. So no matter how he resisted at that time, whether it was activating his spiritual consciousness or mobilizing his magic power, he could not stop this group of foreign objects from approaching his soul. At the moment of contact, Luo Hong was instilled with a piece of information, the content of which was about the inheritance of a skill called Heavenly Demon Shocking Heart Art. But after a quick glance at this set of magic skills, Luo Hong realized that the part of cultivating spiritual consciousness was not the key at all. The main body of this skill was the foreign object that was currently eroding him. Humph, it sounds good. Practicing this skill can reach the highest level of the Great Freedom Demon, but in my opinion, the practitioner is the food of the Great Freedom Demon. Luo Hong cursed inwardly again in great frustration, and said with some relief, "Fortunately, at the last moment, the Golden Palace Jade Book and the Sky-Breaking Spearhead reacted and forced the seed of the demon out of my soul, but only let it attach to the surface of my soul, leaving a glimmer of hope." Husband, what is the Great Freedom Demon? Is it the same kind of creature as those extraterritorial demons you raise? Why are you so afraid? Yuan Yao asked worriedly. What happened just now really scared her and made her hate her powerlessness more than ever before. The Great Freedom Demon, also known as the Devil King from Beyond Heaven, is an existence similar to the true immortal among the Devil Kings from Beyond Territory. Luo Hong explained with a grim look. Chapter 469 Confused Lin Yinping. At first, the outer demons had no intelligence, but were just creatures in the form of pure spiritual consciousness. But when they gained enough intelligence and began to practice, they would undergo a qualitative change and become the outer demon clan. This clan, like the demon clan in the demon world, practiced magic energy as the original energy. If compared to the immortal cultivators, it was the dual cultivation of magic and God. The cake drawn in the heavenly demon heart-shaking art, that is, the great free heavenly demon, was a true immortal. The demon king of this level, that Luo Hong knew, was only the one who first signed a heavenly demon contract with the true immortal Ma Liang, and then attached himself to the magic light of Han Lao Mo. Therefore, he was quite clear that the thing attached to his soul at this time, which was called the heavenly demon seed in the inheritance, was absolutely a deadly thing. This form reminded Luo Hong of the picture of a farmer casually sowing a handful of rapeseed on the ground, and then remembering it after a while, he went to the field to harvest. Although using the heavenly demon seed can quickly improve one's soul realm, it is undoubtedly fattening oneself. True immortal? What should I do then? Yuan Yao was shocked when she heard this. Even if she made a bold guess, she couldn't rely on the existence of a true immortal. Jaoa, don't be so desperate. Although this is a trick set by the heavenly demon lord, it is just a demon seed after all. It cannot be expelled at the moment, but my husband's level is too far behind him. As long as my cultivation level improves in the future, there is still a great chance to get rid of this predicament. Luo Hong comforted her in a voice transmission and added in her heart, but hurry up, before the other party harvests it. After more than half an hour, the spirit boat arrived above the Kanglu tribe. However, at this time, the tents in the tribe had already been dismantled into parts and loaded onto animal carts. The Tuao people of the Kanglu tribe were doing the final work before the migration. Master Zuo, I'm very sorry. The tribe is migrating, so I can only ask you to stay in the carriage. After inviting Luo Hong to his luxurious carriage, Aang Lu apologized with an uneasy look. The migration of the tribe is a big deal. Chief, don't worry about me. Just ask someone to send a set of clothes to me later. Luo Hong didn't have any clothes of the Tuwu people. Although his soul realm has been improved, he was seriously injured when fighting against the demon seed. Before he recovered, it was not appropriate to fight with others. However, during this trip to the Black Domain, he offended the Tuwu people severely, and he was carrying a large number of boundary crystals. If his whereabouts were exposed, he would be hunted down. Although Luo Hong was not afraid, he didn't want to affect his soul injury and waste time for recuperation. He couldn't afford to delay now. Now hiding in the Tu Wu tribe like this is exactly what Luo Hong wants, and he will naturally not embarrass the other party. Thank you for your understanding, Master Zuo. The clothes will be delivered later. Ying Lu smiled and lowered the curtain of the carriage, jumped on the horse, and shouted orders to his tribesmen. With the leader's personal command, the work speed of these Tu Wu people increased immediately, and soon all the bottles, jars, tables, chairs, and benches in the tribe were loaded onto the beast cart. Normally, Luo Hong would have watched with interest, but now he was worried about his misfortune of becoming a demon child, so he just glanced at it and then sat in meditation and practiced his skills. Not long after, a series of soft footsteps came from outside, followed by a crisp female voice. Master Zuo, Grandpa asked Shayna to bring you clothes. Luo Hong opened his eyes and sensed it with his spiritual sense. He saw a girl of 11 or 12 years old standing outside, and she had the qualifications of cultivating immortals with 3 spiritual roots. However, this little girl did not have any magic power, and it was obvious that she had not started practicing yet. Put down the clothes. Ying Lu's thoughts were obvious, and Luo Hong was not a stingy person, but now was not the right time. Okay then. The little girl was obviously a little disappointed. She struggled to lift the clothes she was holding to the front and back of the carriage door, and then turned and left. Luo Hong casually performed a small spell, and a breeze rolled up the clothes outside, and then circled around his naked upper body, and a rare image of a gentle and abrupt person was formed. Just as Luo Hong was about to continue practicing, a stream of green smoke suddenly floated out from his dantian, and Yuan Yao's figure quickly condensed in front of him. Husband, I've thought about it. When I finish refining the Zhenhe pearl, you can send me back to the Netherworld. Luo Hong looked at Yuan Yao, who was smiling sweetly in front of him, and couldn't help but tremble in his heart. After a moment of stunned expression, he said solemnly, have you thought it through? Although letting Yuan Yao return to the Netherworld to practice was in Luo Hong's original plan, after all these years, he is now reluctant to let her go. When Jao was still a key refining cultivator, he thought that, as long as he practiced to the Giant stage, he could be free and easy. But after Jao became a Giant cultivator, he found that everyone below the nascent soul was an ant. Now that I have finally become a nascent soul cultivator, I realized today that, if I can't become a true immortal, everything I have now is only temporary. Husband, I don't want to only look up to you in the future, Yuan Yao said with a firm look in her eyes. It seems that what happened today has touched her deeply. After Luo Hong pondered for a moment, he finally did not tell her that the real immortals are also ants. After all, this goal cannot be too big at once. Okay, your husband promises you. After getting the response she wanted, Yuan Yao smiled brightly and then fled back to Luo Hong's dinshan. Just when Luo Hong was hiding in the Kanglu tribe, Lin Yanping and others who came out of the Black Domain also arrived at the agreed meeting point one after another. After witnessing the battle between Luo Hong and Qiu Wuji, Lin Yanping and others no longer had any hope of snatching the boundary crystal. Otherwise they should have organized the immortal masters of the tribe to chase and intercept Luo Hong and his party. Fellow Daoist Lin, Master Zhu and others are here. After coming out of the Black Domain, Lin Yanping looked a little dazed. After being reminded by Jiang Kun, he realized that many immortal masters of the same tribe had fled from the horizon, including the handsome young man and the purple-haired beautiful woman, the 2 great immortal masters of the Tu Wu tribe. For a moment, Lin Yanping didn't want to meet the other party. After all, she had boasted before leaving, but now she only brought back a pitiful number of boundary crystals and lost 3 tribesmen. But she was worthy of being the saint of Xianlin. She was determined and prepared to face the criticism of her tribesmen. However, what she didn't expect was that when the 2 great immortal masters escaped, the purple-haired beautiful woman blurted out, fortunately, more than half of them came back alive. Fellow Daoist Lin, didn't you fight with the iron-faced man among the million people in the Black Domain? The handsome young man also looked fortunate and asked in doubt. Lin Yanping was a little confused. This was completely different from what she expected. She replied in a daze, I have failed the trust of the tribe and let 3 tribesmen die tragically at the hands of this man. I also lost the holy tripod. I will go to the holy temple to be punished immediately after I return. Fellow Daoist Lin, don't be like this. You have done a good deed by not being wiped out this time. The purple-haired beautiful woman shook her head slightly. Hearing this, Jiang Kun and others couldn't help but feel dizzy. So, they should have perished in the black domain. Master Zhu, what happened? Lin Yinping finally realized that something was wrong and turned to ask the handsome young man. On the 5th day, after you entered the black domain, we received a report from a spy lurking in Xianan. The Milan people have repeatedly invited a supreme elder named Luo Hong from Huangfeng Valley to the Milan holy city, and more than a year before the grand ceremony, this person had announced to the public that he would be in seclusion. At that time, my wife Mu guessed that this monk named Luo was the iron-faced man in the Milan team. Then, we sent people to collect detailed intelligence on this person. Chapter 470, Spiritual World Monk. Because the two Wu people do not border Xianan, they did not pay much attention to Xianan before, and there were very few spies arranged in Xianan. However, now that the Milan people have formed an alliance with Xianan, the shortcomings of this intelligence work must naturally be made up. As a result, the first major achievement of these spies shocked the two Wu high-level officials. According to the report of the spies, the monk surnamed Luo once killed the leader of the Yinluo sect alone with the cultivation of the early Yuanying during the border war. The great magical power is almost the same as that of a cultivator in the late Yuanying period. The handsome young man's face was extremely solemn, and there was a deep fear in his eyes. Although Lin Yinping was already in the black domain and heard Luo Hong say that it was him who killed the leader of the Yinluo sect, she thought at that time that the other party and many Xianan monks besieged together, which led to the fall of a great demon monk. Unexpectedly, the other party did it alone. The difference between them is the difference between heaven and earth. Just having great magical powers is not the key. After all, with the power of our saint clan, even the divine transformation cultivators dare not insult him. But the intelligence mentioned that when this person used all his strength, he could actually make the heavenly Dao feel something, and wanted to send down a heavenly tribulation. What does this mean? I believe that Master Lin should know it. The purple-haired beautiful woman frowned, and said with a worried look on her face, "Can using all his strength to trigger a heavenly tribulation?" Lin Yinping was slightly stunned. After repeating the sentence, she suddenly realized, could this person not be a cultivator in the human world? The main task of the Xianlan Saint Lady is to guide the clone of the Xianlan Saint Beast to the lower world. She is aware of the consequences of the alien creatures coming to the human world. The real function of the Xianlan Holy Cauldron is to isolate the heavenly secrets when the clone of the Saint Beast just descends to the lower world, so that it will not be killed by the tribulation thunder when it is ignorant. When the Saint Beast reaches a certain level of cultivation, it can suppress its own alien aura and avoid the heavenly tribulation. But if they go all out, the aura of the other world will inevitably leak out, and then it will inevitably bring about a heavenly tribulation. This phenomenon is completely consistent with the description of Luo Hong's performance during the border war and the intelligence. Yes, this person is probably the avatar of a great cultivator in the spiritual world, who knows that he can't avoid the next great heavenly tribulation, and sneaked into our human world. The handsome young man nodded heavily, and gave Lin Yinping an affirmative answer. Hearing this, the frustration in the hearts of Lin Yinping and others faded a lot. After all, the other party is the avatar of a great cultivator in the spiritual world, and it is normal for them to be unable to defeat him. As the two great immortals said, they were lucky that they were not completely wiped out when fighting against such an existence. This time, the Milan people got the help of this person and obtained a large number of world crystals. Now they have formed an alliance with Xianan, which is rich in cultivation resources. I'm afraid that they will summon the clone of the Milan Holy Bad to the lower world soon. Since Luo Hong cannot be dealt with, we should think about how to deal with this matter. Lin Yinping sighed dejectedly. Although she had kept silent before, she had the idea of returning to the tribe and borrowing the power of the tribe to avenge the previous shame. However, now that she knew the truth, she no longer had such thoughts. Although the Milan Holy Bad is troublesome, it will not affect the Saint clan for hundreds of years. On the contrary, Luo Hong's cultivation has reached the early stage of the nascent soul. It can be said that the climate is ripe, which is the problem that the Saint clan urgently needs to solve now. The purple-haired beautiful woman's eyes were fierce, and she was murderous. This Madame Mu, if the iron-faced man is really Luo Hong of Huangfeng Valley, he is now a cultivator in the middle stage of the nascent soul. Jiang Kun hesitated for a moment, and finally chose to pour a basin of cold water on him. What? This person has only been in the early stage of the nascent soul for 60 years, but he has already broken through to the middle stage of the nascent soul? Even if he has experience in main cultivation, this is too fast. After all, the time for meditation and key training cannot be saved. Master Jiang, are you seeing things? The purple-haired beautiful woman's face changed, and she asked back in disbelief. We saw this with our own eyes. The other party disappeared in the black domain for more than 10 days, and when he reappeared, his cultivation had greatly improved and entered the middle stage of the nascent soul. I think he must have obtained some opportunity in the black domain. Lin Yinping responded, ruthlessly shattering the fantasy of the purple-haired beautiful woman. Madame Mu, do you still oppose Zhu's proposal now? Although the handsome young man was also shocked by Luo Hong's cultivation speed, his face did not have the frustrated look of Madame Mu. Since that person's cultivation has greatly improved, the plan proposed by this lady, to surround and kill him, is naturally not feasible. The strategy for dealing with this person will follow your previous suggestion. The purple-haired beautiful woman did not insist meaninglessly, and soon changed her attitude. The handsome young man nodded slightly, and then turned to Lin Yinping and said, Master Lin, please go to the temple, and take out the Xianji jade. Lin Yinping frowned slightly, and did not agree immediately, but said in a deep voice, the Xianji jade is a spiritual object, that the holy beast instructed us to find. It has the magical effect of concealing the secrets of heaven. It is very useful for the holy beast's clone. What does Master Zhu want to do with it? Of course, I will use it to trade with Luo Hong in exchange for the boundary crystal in his hand. The handsome young man said bluntly. How can this be done? Even if this can lead the holy beast's clone to the lower world, I'm afraid it will also annoy the other party. Please forgive me for not being able to obey your order. Lin Yinping's face turned as hen. At the beginning, the Xianlun holy beast found the Xianji jade in order to guide them. But it is quite consuming. If they use it for trading, they will undoubtedly not take the Xianlun holy beast seriously. This move is likely to have serious consequences. She did not think much about it, and rejected the handsome young man very rudely. Master Lin. The handsome young man's tone suddenly became majestic. He stared into Lin Yinping's eyes and said, the million people can ask that person to help seize the boundary crystal, which is already far ahead of us. With this person's situation, if nothing unexpected happens, he will be able to break through the realm of transformation within 1,000 years. At that time, the million people will join hands with this person to declare war on us. Wouldn't the grassland that the Saint clan has finally seized be spit out again? Moreover, the Xianji jade is not a consumable. As long as the Saint clan can make friends with this person, it is not impossible to borrow it back if the Saint Beast clone needs it in the future. I believe that the Saint Beast clone knows the difficulties and will understand a little bit. Hearing these realistic problems, Lin Yinping's momentum weakened. Like the Mulan people, the two Wu people believe in the Xianlun sacred beast for the development and growth of their tribe. If there is a conflict between the two, they will naturally choose their tribe without hesitation. Even if Lin Yinping is the Xianlun saint, it is no exception. Seeing that Lin Yinping stopped talking, the handsome young man immediately knew that the other party had acquiesced, and then struck while the iron was hot and said, Master Lin was once an enemy of that person, and his identity is also suitable, so it is best for you to come forward for this transaction. It's all up to Master Zhu to arrange it. As a saint, I will work hard for the holy tribe. Although Lin Yinping didn't want to admit it, this was indeed the most correct approach at the moment. After calming down, she agreed. Chapter 471 Clash of Clans. The sun rises and sets, and in a blink of an eye, Luo Hong has been hiding in the Kanglu tribe for more than half a month. After these days of recuperation, his soul injury has stabilized, and the occasional severe cramps have disappeared. Master Zuo, Master Zuo, we are here. The joyful voice of a young girl came from outside the carriage, and then the curtain of the carriage was pulled open, and Yingshan's small head popped out. Got it. Luo Hong replied lightly without opening his eyes. Yingshan didn't care either. In the past half month, she had become accustomed to Luo Hong's personality. She still smiled and said, "Grandpa is going to hold a banquet tonight to celebrate our safe arrival at the new pasture. Master Zuo, please come and participate. I taught you the eternal spring kung fu. Do you still have any questions?" Luo Hong suddenly changed the subject and mentioned Yingshan's practice. Yingshan didn't understand what was going on. After a moment's pause, she laughed and said, "There are indeed a few places that I can't figure out. Please help me, Master Zuo." Then Yingshan asked all the questions she had about cultivation. Luo Hong gave her some pointers, which made her suddenly realize and run back to her carriage to meditate excitedly. After Yingshan left, Luo Hong opened her eyes and stood up, walking out of the carriage, where she had stayed for more than half a month. When she looked up, she saw an endless green grassland. Although the spiritual energy in the air was weak, it was also very fresh, which made Luo Hong feel refreshed. "Husband, you just gave that instruction to that girl. Are you ready to leave?" Seeing the beautiful scenery in front of her, Yuan Yao seemed to be in a much better mood, and her tone was no longer sad. Now that the injury has stabilized, it's time to return to Xianan. The seedlings of those ancient spiritual medicines in the Wanbao bag must be handed over to junior brother Han as soon as possible. Luo Hong took a deep breath and whispered, "But my husband, I haven't seen the two Wu immortal master you mentioned come to search these days. Is there any conspiracy?" In order to avoid the search of the two Wu people, Luo Hong asked Yuan Yao to use the soul stealing secret technique to modify the memories of Lu and other people who had contact with him on the first night of his arrival at the Kanglu tribe. This made him suddenly change from a high-level immortal master with unpredictable cultivation to a wandering immortal master attracted by the Kanglu tribe. The reason why Lu recruited him was to lead Shan into the immortal way. Because of this, Shan had a casual attitude that was completely different from her previous restraint. Lu also dared to invite him to participate in the banquet of mortals. After all, low-level immortal masters still need to eat and drink. In this way, as long as the two Wu immortal masters did not come to search in person, Luo Hong could easily hide it. But what Luo Hong did not expect was that the arrangement he made with great effort did not work at all, because there was no two Wu immortal master to search the Kanglu tribe. This is indeed a bit strange, but my husband's injury is now stable. As long as he doesn't run into the encirclement set by those two Wu masters, he can keep himself safe. Luo Hong also felt that the two Wu people were playing a loose trick on the outside and tight on the inside, waiting for him to take the bait. After all, he killed their people, robbed their holy tripod, and had a large number of boundary crystals on him. The other party would not let him go so easily. But as he said, with his current magical powers, if he wanted to leave, no one among the two Wu people could stop him. So no matter what the two Wu people were planning, they couldn't make Luo Hong change his plan. Now, he just waited for the night to fall, and then let Yuan Yao erase Lu's memory of him, and then he could set off. Just thinking about this, Luo Hong suddenly heard a noisy quarrel in the distance, and then saw Sander running towards his carriage in a hurry. "Sander, Zuo is here." Luo Hong spoke in time and stopped this honest man. "Master Zuo, the leader asked me to invite you over. The tribe is in trouble and may need your help." Sander panted. "Well, lead the way." As a low-level immortal master worshipped by the Heron tribe, it was reasonable for Luo Hong to help at this time, so Luo Hong readily agreed. Anyway, he had just confirmed with his spiritual sense that, even if he encountered the worst situation, it would only be a small trouble that was not worth mentioning. Soon, Luo Hong was led by Sander to the front of the tribal convoy. At this moment, there were two groups of people glaring at each other, obviously having a dispute. "Ao Yun, my Heron tribe arrived here first. Why don't you allow us to graze here?" Surrounded by a group of strong men from the Heron tribe, Lu, riding on a steed, said angrily to a burly tribal leader opposite. "Humph. The vanguard of my White Wolf tribe arrived here a day ago, so this place should belong to our White Wolf tribe." Ao Yun retorted without any politeness, and his face was full of flesh, which made him look extremely fierce. The grassland under his feet was not only fertile, but also the immortal master worshipped by the tribe told him that there might be a tiny spiritual vein here. which is why there is such abundant spiritual energy. If he searches for it, he may find a super small spiritual mine, and then he can harvest at least 500 or 600 spiritual stones. The Heron tribe was just a small tribe that had just been separated not long ago, and its strength was several times that of his White Wolf tribe. He had no scruples at the moment, and naturally put on an aggressive attitude. So, you, Ao Yun, are not going to be reasonable today. Aing Lu's face was as hen, and his tone was very unfriendly. Haha, Chief Aing, you don't have to say such harsh words. Our White Wolf tribe has always abided by the rules of the Holy Temple. We follow the rules in everything. The fights between tribes are not random. Ao Yun has been a leader for more than just one day, so he will not quarrel. Aing Lu knew the rules that Ao Yun mentioned very well. If a small holy tribe like this has a dispute, the most common way to solve it is to let the immortal masters worshipped in the tribe fight each other, and the winner can get what he wants. The White Wolf tribe also migrated recently, which is naturally not a coincidence. This tribe is originally a neighbor of the Kanglu tribe. They also migrated to avoid the beast titan monsters that may appear after the Earth Dragon rolls. Therefore, Aing Lu is very clear about the strength of the White Wolf tribe, and knows that the other side worships two immortal masters all year round. If it were in the past, Aing Lu might have directly led his people to retreat, but he recently recruited a wandering immortal master. With Zhu Jun, if the number of people is equal, he may not lose in a fight. This is the rule of the grassland. The tribesmen of both sides did not say anything, and immediately made way for the immortal masters to fight. A big man with a shaggy chest jumped out from the White Wolf tribe, holding a ring-headed broadsword that was either a magic weapon or an iron weapon, and shouted loudly, "Daoist friend of the Heron tribe, why don't you get out and get beaten?" Without Yinglu asking him to come, Zhu Jun used the light body technique and came to the field with a breeze. "Daoist friend, Zhu will treat your mouth today," Zhu Jun said in a very majestic manner, and Luo Hong in the crowd couldn't help but curl his lips. "Jaoa, what memory did you make up for him? Why is this person's behavior so strange?" My husband asked me to give him the flying sword without making a sound, so I turned into the appearance of the holy beast of the Tu Wu tribe, sneaked into his dream, and told him the hiding place of the flying sword. Maybe that's why he misunderstood. Yuan Yao explained with a smile. "Misunderstanding? Haha, this misunderstanding is probably a big one. If it goes wrong, Mr. Zhu will suffer a lot in the future." Luo Hong chuckled and complained inwardly. Chapter 472 Weird Immortal Master. After laughing, Luo Hong did not make any extra moves. This Zhu Jun was a mean person. After Yuan Yao modified his memory and obtained a high-level magic weapon, his attitude towards him became unbearable. After all, they are now the only two immortal masters in the Kanglu tribe, and the small tribe is not rich. In Zhu Jun's eyes, he is his competitor. Now he is so active in the battle, probably to show his strength to himself. It was a chance meeting. Regardless of this person's character and motives, he finally helped me. I just need to give him a magic weapon as a thank you, and there is no need for extra. Luo Hong was not interested in the fight between the two key refining monks. Thoughts flashed in his mind, thinking about the itinerary after returning to Xianan. Calculating the time, when I return to Huangfeng Valley, Han Liao Mo should also return from the extreme west with the residual soul of Day and Shenzhen. The seedlings of the ancient spiritual medicine cannot be delayed. I'd better go directly to Loan Sect to wait for him. While waiting, I will study the use of space cracks to refine treasures. It is best to wait until the ancient demon rebellion is over before taking the Shiangxin fruit. While thinking about it, Luo Hong suddenly heard cheers in her ears. It turned out that Zhu Jun had defeated two immortal masters of the White Wolf tribe with the advantage of flying swords. At this moment, Zhu Jun pinched his fingers with one hand, and the flying sword moved around him flexibly, carrying the victory momentum, which was very impressive. "Your White Wolf tribe has been defeated. Why don't you retreat quickly for this immortal master?" Ao Yun held the reins tightly with both hands. His face was extremely ugly. He never expected that the small Heron tribe could recruit such a powerful immortal master like Zhu Jun. This immediately made Ao Yun, who was originally confident, annoyed and hesitant. "Master Duan, do you have the confidence to defeat this man?" He suddenly turned his head and asked a gloomy man with a dark face beside him. Don't worry, leader. This guy is just relying on the flying sword. His cultivation is not very deep. Duan has his own ways to deal with him. After saying that, the gloomy man turned over and dismounted and walked slowly to the center of the field. Seeing the third immortal master from the White Wolf tribe, Lu was shocked, and at the same time, he also understood why Ao Yun was so confident before. It turned out that his White Wolf tribe had recently recruited a new immortal master. Zhu Jun was also surprised, but there was no fear on his face. Although he had fought 2 games in a row, he won both games easily. At this time, he still had a small amount of mana left. It must be easy to deal with the opponent in front of him with a weak step. However, as soon as the two fought, the gloomy man tremblingly offered a pair of black iron beads, and with 2 clang clang sounds, they were suddenly attached to the flying sword offered by Zhu Jun. Suddenly, Zhu Jun felt that his flying sword was no longer light, but became as heavy as a millstone, and it was difficult to drive. Just as he was panicking, he saw the other party open his mouth and spit out a ball of yellow-green mist, which quickly covered him. Before he made contact, Zhu Jun smelled a very foul smell, and immediately felt dizzy. No, this mist cannot be touched. After Zhu Jun secretly said that it was not good, he sacrificed the 2 firebomb talismans in his arms, trying to blast away the poisonous fog. However, after the 2 fireballs sank into the yellow-green mist, they quickly turned into a wisp of green smoke and were extinguished. Seeing that the poisonous fog was about to cover him, Zhu Jun did not hesitate, and immediately admitted defeat in panic. Haha, Master Duan is mighty. Seeing that his own master won, Ao Yun shared with his rough voice. The men of the White Wolf tribe under his command also shouted, Master Zuo, look. Lu looked at Luo Hong with difficulty. After all, he had participated in the Holy War and witnessed many methods of cultivators. He also realized that the immortal master surnamed Duan was not easy to deal with, so he did not have much confidence in Luo Hong. Leader, there is no need to say more. Since I'm worshipped by the Kanglu tribe, Zuo should go to the battle now. Luo Hong replied to Lu calmly, as if he did not see the powerful method the other party had just used. My husband, this person is so strange. In order to win, he actually used poison skills that would shorten his lifespan when he was already dying. Could it be that the White Wolf tribe has a grace to regenerate him? Yuan Yao's spiritual sense slightly explored and found that the immortal master surnamed Duan had a deep accumulation of poison in his body. If he had not practiced poison skills, he would have turned into a pool of pus and blood. Haha, this person is so desperate to drive away the Kanglu tribe. I'm afraid there is some secret hidden in this place. It is quite interesting. Luo Hong was a little interested in the unexpected twists and turns, but he did not intend to help the other party. When Luo Hong stood in the middle of the field, Duan Ziqiu was about to use his magic weapon when he noticed a young eagle standing on the opponent's shoulder. He saw that the eagle was very handsome, so he couldn't help but take a few more glances. But this seemed to anger the young eagle. There seemed to be a flash of lightning in the young eagle's eyes. Duan Ziqiu's heart jumped suddenly, and a layer of cold sweat broke out on his back. At this moment, Luo Hong reached out and touched Zhao Jun's head. Duan Ziqiu immediately recovered. He saw that the young eagle was rubbing against the opponent's palm. There was no spiritual energy on his body. It was just an ordinary bird. Damn it, my body can't delay any longer. I must get the antidote tonight. Duan Ziqiu pushed his abnormality onto his body that was about to be crushed by the poison. The fight began, and Duan Ziqiu used his old tricks again, using his magic weapon and poison mist to attack Luo Hong. At this time, Luo Hong was a little hesitant. He hadn't figured out how to defeat the opponent. Are you scared, silly? Duan Ziqiu was suspicious, but he did not hold back. He drove the poison mist towards Luo Hong's head. Only then did Luo Hong make a move. He reached out to the storage bag on his waist, took out 3 wooden sculptures, and threw them on the ground. Everyone saw that the 3 wooden sculptures quickly grew in size in the air, and in the blink of an eye, they turned into a blue turtle, a vicious tiger, and a black eagle. After the blue turtle landed, it immediately opened its mouth and sucked wildly, swallowing all the yellow-green poison mist into its stomach. At the same time, the Black Eagle and the Evil Tiger pounced on Duan Ziqiu, one from the sky and the other from the ground. The poison mist was collected, and Duan Ziqiu, who had lost his proud means, could not help but panic. He hurriedly drove the iron bead magic weapon to stop the Black Eagle and the Evil Tiger, but it had little effect. Just as he was about to sacrifice other magic weapons, the Black Eagle in the sky and the Evil Tiger on the ground opened their mouths at the same time, and with two booms, they spit out two spiritual light balls. The light ball hit Duan Ziqiu's aura shield and exploded immediately, sending him flying. Before he could get up, he felt a weight on his back, and Black Hawk's sharp claws had already locked onto his neck. At such a close distance, Duan Ziqiu could see Black Hawk's appearance clearly, and muttered with an ugly face, "Low-level puppets." Yes, these three little gadgets were made by Luo Hong when he first practiced puppetry. They were originally only of commemorative value, but he didn't expect to have the opportunity to use them in actual combat today. Damn it, if the means I used were not restrained by you, how could I have been defeated by you? Duan Ziqiu seemed very dissatisfied and struggled to get up. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 473, Ancestral Treasure House. However, Duan Ziqiu's body, which would fall down at the slightest gust of wind, would not change because of his unwillingness to accept. Luo Hong only slightly tightened the claws of the Black Eagle, and the guy cried out in pain and lay back down again. HMPH. Chief Ying, you still don't know that the immortal master of your tribe should stop. Do you want to break the rule that you cannot seriously injure the opponent in a duel? Seeing that the defeat was certain, Ao Yun spoke with a gloomy face. Ying Lu was not a fool, and he smiled coldly and said, "The noble immortal master has not admitted defeat yet. Is Chief Ao trying to cheat?" As soon as he finished speaking, Duan Ziqiu, who was pressed to the ground by the Black Eagle puppet, said the word "admit defeat" with difficulty. Luo Hong was also very straightforward. He immediately stretched out his hand and the Black Eagle and the Evil Tiger turned into wooden sculptures and returned to his hand. Only the blue turtle in front of him smelled very bad because it was corroded by the poisonous fog, and Luo Hong didn't want it anymore. Duan Ziqiu stood up with an angry look on his face, glanced at the blue turtle that Luo Hong had discarded, and pinched his hand to see the yellow-green poisonous mist corroding the wooden turtle shell and making holes, drilling out of it, and then being sucked back into his stomach. It turned out that the reason why he refused to admit defeat was to delay time so as to create an opportunity for the poisonous mist to attack by surprise. After all, it was Luo Hong's practice work, and the main material of the spirit turtle puppet was only 10-year ironwood. Luo Hong was not surprised by this result. All three immortal masters were defeated, and the White Wolf tribe officially lost the duel. Ao Yun had to return with his tribesmen in dismay. "Master Zuo, thanks to you this time, our Heron tribe can defend this grassland. Master, rest assured, the tribe will give you corresponding spiritual stones to compensate for the magic weapon you lost." After forcing the White Wolf tribe to retreat, Ying Lu immediately stepped forward to thank Luo Hong. "You are welcome, Chief. I will go back to recover my magic power. If there is nothing special, please do not disturb me." Luo Hong said politely and turned away. "Haha, husband, you are so bad. You use this method to make the immortal master surnamed Duan think that he can win again. It seems that husband wants to make some noise before leaving. Yuan Yao and Luo Hong have been together day and night for decades. She is very familiar with him and saw through his intentions." In Duan Ziqiu's eyes, Luo Hong is just a low-level immortal master who drives puppets. If he loses his puppets, his combat power will be greatly reduced. After the battle, one of Luo Hong's 3 puppets was lost, and the threat was naturally greatly reduced. If he goes back to regroup and attack again, it will not be difficult to deal with Luo Hong and Zhu Jun at the same time. Help the Kanglu tribe solve this hidden danger, and the cause and effect between my husband and this Tu Wu tribe will be settled. Luo Hong said calmly. Although he knew what secrets the immortal master surnamed Duan had, he would not be moved by anything at all given his cultivation level in the key refining stage. Therefore, his actions were partly out of a momentary interest, and partly to repay the cause and effect of the Kanglu tribe. For a cultivator of Luo Hong's realm, a few hours was just a blink of an eye. He only felt that he had been meditating in the carriage for a while, and the night had already enveloped the world. The people of the Kanglu tribe were holding a banquet at this moment. The air was filled with flesh and the laughter of singing and dancing echoed. In the past, Luo Hong would still have some waves in his heart when he saw these secular scenes, but after experiencing the 7749 lives in the forget worry illusion, the world outside could no longer affect his Tao heart. Time passed by minute, while Luo Hong was meditating. Just as the banquet came to an end, everyone was full of wine and meat, and was ready to go back to the tent, to make a human being, when a fierce howl suddenly came from the night sky. A trace of disdain suddenly appeared in Xiao Jin's eyes, and he was about to spread his wings and fly to kill the monster bird that dared to shout in her sky. Don't be so impatient, there are people to deal with this monster bird. After calming Xiao Jin, who had a childish temper, Luo Hong seemed to be talking to himself. Joa, you transform into your husband to deal with it, and your husband will go to see what the guy surnamed Duan is planning. Haha, interesting, my husband, don't come back too early. A wisp of green smoke floated out, and it turned into Luo Hong's appearance, pinching her orchid fingers and laughing. Then, two escape lights shot out from the carriage, going in different directions. After a while, Luo Hong was suspended in the air with his hands behind his back, and his mouth was slightly raised as he looked at the sneaky Duan Ziqiu below. At this time, due to the sudden attack of the monster, the Heron tribe was in chaos. However, a Luo Hong soon appeared and stopped the ape-like and eagle-like monster bird. However, after several rounds of fighting, this Luo Hong was obviously at a disadvantage. Fortunately, at this time, another immortal master from the Heron tribe arrived, and the two of them attacked together to stop the ape eagle. Witnessing this scene, Duan Ziqiu immediately showed a smile of success, and then put a wind-controlling talisman on his leg, and ran towards a certain place. Luo Hong saw him take out a compass-like magic weapon and search for directions from time to time, and knew that there must be a secret place here. But he had already used his spiritual sense to explore this place before, and this grassland had nothing special except for a little spiritual energy. Wait, is it a space gate? There are not many things in the human world that can escape the exploration of his spiritual sense, so he quickly locked on the most likely one. Then, Luo Hong cast a spell to open his eyes, and soon saw a crack with a few spirit particles gathered in the direction of Duan Ziqiu's movement. Obviously, that was the door the other party was looking for. The appearance of the space gate immediately raised the level of the matter to several levels, and Luo Hong couldn't help but become more interested. So, he restrained his breath, slowly landed beside the space gate, hid in the darkness with magic, and waited for Duan Ziqiu to open the door for him. Not long after, Duan Ziqiu, who was excited and couldn't stop muttering to himself, followed the instructions of the compass and came to the vicinity of the space gate. The reaction here is the strongest. The entrance to the treasure house must be here. After saying that, Duan Ziqiu put away the compass, took out a stone with white rough runes, bit his fingertips, and ripped a drop of blood on it. Ancestors bless me, you must let me successfully open the treasure house, otherwise I will not get the ancestral elixir in it, and I will definitely die from the rotten heart poison. After placing the runestone on the ground and worshipping it, Duan Ziqiu began to chant the spell. After a while, the runestone floated with a white ribbon-like halo. At this time, Luo Hong, who was secretly observing from the side, saw clearly that these ribbon-like spiritual lights were trying to connect to the space gate. However, due to Duan Ziqiu's insufficient cultivation, although his method was appropriate, the speed was extremely slow. This guy seems to be so actively looking for the ancestral treasure house, because he is poisoned. The person who poisoned him is probably here for this purpose. Now these people have not shown up. Could it be that? Haha, it's true that, if you mention the devil, he will appear. Luo Hong said, and couldn't help but use his hiding method a little seriously. Chapter 474 Ghostface Silkworm. Hundreds of miles away, a group of immortal cultivators who were not like the two Wu immortal master were riding on the back of a skylark with a wingspan of more than 10 feet, flying rapidly in the sky. Ancestor, is the Duan family's treasure house really in this grassland? Could it be that Duan Ziqiu knew that he would die and deliberately led us here so that we would have a conflict with the two Wu barbarians? A handsome young man who had reached the middle stage of foundation building said to the gray-haired old man beside him with a sad face. According to my investigation, the ancestors of the Duan family came from the Xianlan grassland. It is not surprising that they hid the family treasure house in their ancestral land. The gray-haired old man stared at a white talisman stone in his hand and said without looking back, "But if we stay in the two Wu barbarians' territory for such a long time, we will be discovered sooner or later. Can't the ancestor let us capture Duan Ziqiu and search his soul?" The handsome young man said with a fierce look in his eyes. "The steps to open the treasure house are complicated. If we miss a step or a spell in the soul search, wouldn't our Chu family's century-long plan be in vain?" "Kwana, don't be impatient. The two Wu people have close contacts with our Dajin, and we haven't done anything to harm them. Even if we are discovered in the end, they will definitely not hurt our lives. At most, they will drive us out of the country. After all, the one standing behind our Chu family is the Xianmo sect, the leader of the 10 major demon sects." The gray-haired old man's eyes flashed with a black light, and a wicked smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he said very proudly. As soon as the voice fell, the white runestone in his hand glowed with a bright light, which immediately made the two of them look overjoyed. "Haha, I finally found it. Don't hold back your breath. Fly away at full speed for me." The gray-haired old man gave an order, and the blue-feathered white-headed skylark suddenly flapped its wings, and in an instant, the wind spirit power gushed out, making its escape speed suddenly increase by a lot. The immortal cultivation family of Dajin? And it is related to the heavenly demon sect? What a narrow road for enemies. Luo Hong rubbed his chin and muttered to himself. He didn't expect that his momentary impulse could also get unexpected gains. The heavenly demon seed on the Yuanshan is undoubtedly a time bomb for Luo Hong, and it is a time bomb that he doesn't know when it will explode. If it weren't for his Yuanshan being sick and needing to rest for several years, and if he was not worried about the magic cultivator behind the heavenly demon sect, who are an old demon, I'm afraid he would have rushed to the heavenly demon sect long ago, trying every means to get relevant information about the heavenly demon seed and infer its outbreak pattern. Now that someone has come to his door, he naturally has to seize the opportunity to collect a wave of information. The two Wu clan is not made of clay, and they are far away from the sphere of influence of the heavenly demon sect. Since the giant ancestor is confident in taking advantage of the situation, he must have a close relationship with the heavenly demon sect. With my cultivation level, it is easy to use the dream-inducing technique to get him to talk. Luo Hong silently made a plan in his mind. It is not suitable to search the soul to ask such detailed information. If he is unlucky, he may miss important parts. Fortunately, the other party is only at the Jiandan level. Under the pressure of his spiritual consciousness, the dream-inducing technique can make him answer all questions. At this time, Duan Ziqiu, who was already sweating, finally finished casting the spell. The white runestone was now floating in the air under the traction of the ribbon-like spiritual light. From Luo Hong's spiritual vision, it was in the middle of the space gate. Who it's done. Duan Ziqiu took out a pill to restore his mana and swallowed it, and staggered to his feet. The white runestone began to rotate slowly under his gaze, and immediately aroused a lot of spiritual fluctuations. No wonder he wanted to contain Zujun and Luo Hong. Soon, a silver-white diamond-shaped light gate emerged, and rich spiritual energy overflowed from the light gate. Duan Ziqiu was overjoyed, and without thinking, he stepped directly through the light gate and entered the treasure house. At this time, Luo Hong walked out of the dark, and his eyes flashed twice, and he also stepped through the light gate. After the silver light in front of him dissipated, Luo Hong came to a small space. After a slight sense of his spiritual sense, he realized that this place was not a natural space fragment, but a space magic weapon similar to the Xianji Palace. This space with a radius of only 20 meters was almost full of shelves and boxes. After Luo Hong glanced around, He found that the shelves were filled with various magic tools and a few magic weapons, and the boxes were all spiritual stones. There were quite a few spiritual stones, about 100,000 pieces, but they were all low-level spiritual stones, which could basically only be used for transactions between cultivators below the Jinden stage, or transactions between forces. The intermediate spiritual stones commonly used by cultivators above the Yuanying stage were only 100 or so pieces in a small box in the middle. For a family of immortal cultivators whose highest cultivation level is no more than the Jinden stage, this place can indeed be called a treasure house, but for Luo Hong, there is nothing here that he can appreciate. If he found it alone, he would just roll it up and throw it into the sect treasure house of Huangfeng Valley. Duan Ziqiu didn't realize that there was one more person in his treasure house. He was looking for something like crazy among the many shelves. Where is it? Where is it? Where is the Kingman pill? Fortunately, his ancestor was not a slacker, and he finally found a life-saving pill. Otherwise Luo Hong was afraid that he would collapse on the spot. Huh. Why is there the smell of the ghost-faced silkworm here? Just when Luo Hong was not interested, the voice of the silver fairy suddenly came from his heart. Ghost-faced silkworm? Fairy, may I ask what kind of spiritual insect is that? Luo Hong thought about it for a while, and confirmed that the name of this insect was not on the list of strange insects in the world. The ghost-faced silkworm is a creature in the void, often appearing in the dark side of the interface, absorbing the dead air of a world for a living. The outer demon tribe sometimes uses its magical powers to invade the spirit world. I didn't expect that there are traces of it in the human world. Fairy Yin seemed to be interested in the ghost-faced silkworm and explained it to Luo Hong in detail. After investigating, she continued, it turned out to be a used silk cocoon. It is likely that the demon seed on your soul passed through the interface barrier with this thing. This thing is related to the demon seed. Exclamation mark. Luo Hong's expression became solemn, and he looked up and down at the so-called silk cocoon several times. It was just a hollow silk ball that looked ordinary, and did not contain any spiritual energy. The black surface was shiny and oily, except for being a little bigger. It was really no different from an ordinary silk ball. It's a pity, brother Luo, you haven't cultivated the magical power of the ghost way, otherwise this cocoon would be of great use to you. The ghost cultivators in the spirit world are very eager for this item. I remember that before, there was an alien in the fusion stage who asked this fairy master for this item. What treasure did he take out at that time? The good mood of the silver fairy, who was gloating over Luo Hong's encounter with a treasure that was useless to him, immediately disappeared due to the loss of memory. When the silver fairy fell into autism, Luo Hong couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Why are there spiritual objects related to the seeds of the devil in the Duan family's treasure house? Could it be that the Duan and Chu families are both affiliated immortal cultivation families of the demon sect? Chapter 475 Appearance. After taking out the elixir from the dark green jade bottle and swallowing it, Duan Ziqiu's face turned red at a speed visible to the naked eye, and his cultivation level also leaped to the early stage of foundation building. Obviously, he himself is a foundation building cultivator. The reason why his cultivation level regressed to the key refining stage was entirely due to poisoning. Seeing that the effect of the elixir was just as described in his ancestral book, Duan Ziqiu was overjoyed. Then, he took out a storage bag one by one and put away some of the magic tools and spirit stones in the treasure house, undoubtedly to take away. However, he did not touch the ghost-faced silkworm cocoon and did not even look at it. Seeing this, Luo Hong could not help but frown slightly. If the other party knew the origin of the cocoon, he would understand that the value of this thing might be higher than the entire treasure house. Even if he was not at ease to carry it with him, he would not be so dismissive. Luo Hong stood in the narrow passage, watching Duan Ziqiu pass by him after packing up. After hesitating for a moment, he stretched out his hand and grabbed the ghost-faced silkworm cocoon and took it into his hand. The object was cold to the touch. Luo Hong squeezed it hard and found that even with his huge force of 1,000,000 pounds, he could not leave any marks on it. You know, the cocoon is hollow. Then, red flames and cold winds surged out of his hands, but they could not move the cocoon at all. This object is so indestructible and impervious to water and fire. No wonder the ancestors of the Duan family hid it in the treasure house. As soon as the voice fell, Luo Hong heard Duan Ziqiu's extremely angry voice coming from outside the light gate. Old demon Chu, you have been following me all the time. What did you do to me? Haha, Duan Ziqiu, you are such a fool. Why do you need to use any special means? The stench of your rotten heart and poison. I, a wine-chasing dog, can smell it even from 1,000 miles away. The handsome young man laughed wildly, looking at the light gate behind Duan Ziqiu, his eyes full of greed. Kwana, no need to say more. Quickly kill the Duan family kid. The spiritual energy reaction here may have attracted the attention of the surrounding Tu Wu tribe. The gray-haired old man floated in the air with his hands behind his back and said coldly, "It's the ancestor. You two, follow me." After a shout, the sound of fighting came from outside the light gate. The people of the Chu family are quite cautious. They know that the other party has just come out of the treasure house and their methods are unpredictable. The ancestor asked the younger generation to take action, and the younger generation also cleverly found helpers. Luo Hong was completely watching the fun at the moment and had no intention of intervening. Even if my soul is scattered today, I will not let you demons get the treasure house of my Duan family. Duan Ziqiu roared, and the light gate shook. It was obvious that he wanted to destroy the white runestone that opened the space door. HMPH. Most of the treasures in this treasury were taken from my Chu family by your ancestors thousands of years ago. It's just a matter of who wins and who loses. Why bother pretending like that? Chu Quan seemed to hate Duan Ziqiu's face, and he didn't forget to make sarcastic remarks during the fight. Kwana, don't talk nonsense with him. After we get rid of him, we still have to kill the nearby Tu Wu tribe. Time is very tight. The gray-haired old man scolded with a somewhat dissatisfied tone. Haha, I'm afraid Zuo can't agree to this. The sudden voice of the man made everyone look stunned, especially the gray-haired old man in the air. His face turned pale in an instant. Who is this master here? I'm the head of the Chu family in Guangnan Prefecture. I hope you can show up and see me. Before the voice fell, everyone saw the Tu Wu immortal master, who was about 10 or 20 years old, stepping out of the diamond-shaped light gate. You are the immortal master Zuo from the Kanglu tribe, but you are not. Duan Ziqiu was halfway through his words when he suddenly realized that the other party was definitely not a cultivator in the key refining stage, but at least in the middle and late stages of the Jiandan stage. Otherwise, how could he enter the treasure house without him noticing? After Luo Hong appeared, the gray-haired old man immediately probed his divine sense to find out Luo Hong's cultivation level. As a result, the response of the divine sense was the same as that of probing a mortal. This situation only occurs in cultivators who are one major realm higher than themselves. You are a Yuanying cultivator. The gray-haired old man shouted in surprise and hurriedly took back the life magic weapon he had secretly sacrificed. He bowed and saluted, saying, "Senior, we have a reason for trespassing into the grassland. We have no intention of harming the nobles. Please help us. Since you have no intention of harming us, why do you intend to kill my people to silence them? Humph, you first want to do something wrong, and then lie to us. None of you will survive today." Luo Hong's mind moved, and the golden moon scimitar flew out in a flash, hanging behind him ready to be used to destroy the enemy at any time. The amazing spiritual pressure emitted by the golden moon scimitar immediately extinguished the only remaining doubts in everyone's hearts. Chu Quan and others knelt down and begged for mercy. "Senior, wait a moment. Although my Chu family is small, we have a close relationship with the Heavenly Demon Sect, the leader of the 10 major demon sects in Dajin. Moreover, although my Chu family has an old grudge with the Duan family, today's matter was actually instructed by the elders of the Heavenly Demon Sect." The gray-haired old man saw that Luo Hong was full of murderous aura, and it was really murderous. He quickly brought out his backers to try to scare Luo Hong. The instruction of the Heavenly Demon Sect? Luo Hong frowned slightly and pondered silently. How is it possible? How could a force like the Heavenly Demon Sect be interested in the treasure house of my Duan family? "Senior, old demon Chu must be deceiving you. You must not be fooled." Duan Ziqiu saw Luo Hong fall silent, and his soul was immediately scared, and he quickly spoke to discredit the Chu family. Noisy. Luo Hong's eyes flashed with anger, and after shouting, he gently waved his sleeves, Then, a gust of wind whistled out, easily breaking through Duan Ziqiu's protective spirit shield, knocking him to the ground, covering his chest with his hands, and coughing up blood. Although this kid is rude, what he said is true. The things hidden in this treasure house are not even worth looking at by Zuo. How could the Heavenly Demon Sect, the leader of the 10 major demon sects in Dajin, be interested in it? If you can't give a reasonable explanation, Zuo will let you taste the pain of extracting souls and refining spirits. Luo Hong narrowed his eyes slightly, and said in a very unfriendly tone. Hearing this, the grey-clothed old man secretly breathed a sigh of relief. Since the other party said so, as long as he could give an explanation, the disaster would be over. He did not lie at all in what he said just now. However, before he opened his mouth, Chu Quan, who was under pressure from Luo Hong, hurriedly said, "Please wait a moment, senior. I have evidence in my hand." As he said that, he took out a thumb-sized blood-colored bead from the storage bag, held it in front of him and said, "This is the communication talisman given to the Chu family by Lord Mozi of the Heavenly Demon Sect. It contains Lord Mozi's divine consciousness. Senior will know what the ancestors said by exploring it." Before Chu Quan finished explaining, the blood-colored bead seemed to have sensed something, and slowly floated towards Luo Hong. How is this possible? End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.